Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Tom Bilyeu Show Live. I am here with Drew. We've got Mason in community, and we've got G and Eric rocking everything behind the scenes. We are your normal daily crew, and we are very grateful that you guys are joining us. We've got some wild stuff to get to today. There's never a dull day. Trump promises if Hamas doesn't chill, they will meet their end in a fast, furious, and brutal fashion. He also essentially declared war on the Mexican drug cartels and BLM. We gotta see that one directly. He sort of skirts around it, but it seems like he is going to start weaponizing the financial system, if nothing else. When you have Scott Bessent there standing, ready to go, it doesn't look good. So more domestic terrorists being named every day. Then he also promises to help Argentina by buying their beef, which is not going well with the America First part of his base. So we'll see how far that blows up. Speaking of things that blew up, Candace lit the internet on fire by teasing Charlie Kirk's betrayal. She talked about breaking out of the gag order, but of course she's not actually under the gag order, but it was an amazing tweet. It actually went hyper viral. So shout out to her. But we are going to be breaking down today some of the claims that she made. Mario Knopfel did a great video with Stephen Gardner going point by point on the claims that she's making. I worry about Candace in terms of, man, once you start going down the pure conspiracy rabbit hole, you start seeing connections everywhere that are not necessarily there. So we're going to go through those. That'll be interesting. And then Japan elects their first female prime minister, and she is about to deport all illegals. I'm interested to talk about this one. If you guys don't know, I'm a total Japanophile, so I've got some thoughts about Japan and what's going on there. I will be very curious to get your guys' take. And Ireland is literally on fire right now over the alleged rape of a 10-year-old by a migrant, and they have reached some sort of boiling over point, and it's really popping off over there. There were lots of people in the streets, and they were not being peaceful. They were burning cop cars. They were throwing things at cops, like a lot of things at cops. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens all around the world as people are getting to the faux part of FAFO. So yeah, we are going to all learn a lesson that values matter a lot. And when you import people too quickly, you're about to have problems. Speaking of problems, Palmer Luckey, if you guys don't know him, billionaire, genius inventor, has some wild advice on health that you guys have to hear to believe. When I saw the headline, I was like, there's no way he actually says that. No, he says it. So we'll give it a shot. We'll see what he's got going on. All right, everybody, let's dive into it. By the way, Paleo Valley is sponsoring today's episode. We love us some Paleo Valley. I eat a distressing amount of Paleo Valley. So what you guys are seeing here is a product lineup that I eat literally every single day. The bone broth protein literally every single day, 5 to 7 days a week. The sticks I use when I'm traveling, but just absolutely amazing. I could not be more grateful to those guys. All right, Drew, where do you want to start?
Hey man, there's a lot happening right now.
There is a lot happening. That is for sure.
I feel like it's Trump v. everybody because I blink and there's a new terrorist group. I blink, we just bombed another South American country. I'm like, I like merengue, I like salsa. I don't got no beef with South America. Why we out here so hard? But everybody could get it. Argentinian, we buying their beef, and now we got beef internally. There's a lot of we're fighting a lot of wars on a lot of different fronts.
It's interesting. So reading all of this, I will admit that the first gear I was in was like, this is our peace president. Mm-hmm. That's sort of the initial headline reaction. But I think listen, I don't think Trump navigates these things perfectly well. I want to be very clear about that. But I do think that what you're witnessing is a very imperfect person who understands both sides of the leverage coin, which is the carrot and the stick. What you see going on with Argentina is very much all carrot. So I think he shares a value set with Milei and wants to make sure that they can point to them as a success story of prudent economic principles, of capitalism, like all of that. They want to be able to say, see, look, for 100 years, these guys tried the socialist experiment. It didn't work, which it really didn't. That's just objectively, provably true. And now the question is going to be, Milei called a shot, so we're going to do all these things. Seemed like he was having a good run, and then something happened. I haven't looked closely enough at the situation to know exactly what broke. But Trump is in there really trying to help make sure that they get to the other side of it. But all of these things are trade-offs. And so, of course, his base is like, hold on a second. Like, are we America first or not? So anyway, you put all this together. He knows carrot. He knows stick. In some places, he's obviously very willing to use the stick all across South America. I think you were saying that someone in chat was saying, forgive me for not knowing the names, but they were pointing out that a lot of what's going on in South America is really a US v China proxy battle. And I think that's a really smart way to read that. I've been doing a lot of research on China's gold corridor. Just wrote a deep dive that touches on this. It wasn't about that specifically, but it touches on that. Coming out on Monday, please, guys, by the way, your embrace of the deep dive format is insane. I could not be more grateful. So we have the latest one coming out on Monday. And I think that's a really interesting read in terms of what's actually going on with all of our beef with South America. I don't know if that plays so much into the Mexico thing.
Let's jump into that, because that's actually what surprised me, is because Trump actually declares war on the cartel, saying this is a problem, we're going to take it over, and he's even suggested sending armed troops across the border. So this is Fox News when they interviewed him yesterday. Oh, and I'm on mute. Ha ha ha! Just kidding, guys. Good morning.
El Chapo's front yard.
We're talking about sending military forces to fight against the drug cartels in Latin America. Do you think it's worth sending our forces, our U.S. forces there to take this on?
Cartels where?
Central Latin America.
Well, Latin America's got a lot of cartels. They've got a lot of drugs flowing. So, we want to protect our country. We have to protect our country. We haven't been doing it for 4 years. And we love this country like they love their countries. We have to protect our country. So, we're playing.
He's not
a
wrong
tough
about
game.
that. Listen, I think that the fact that he has this impulse to be very protective of America, to be America first, to want to see us win, to be just hyper-focused, not on a global perspective, but on like, okay, my job as the president of the United States is to think about American citizens, to protect our borders, all that. I love that. But when you have... This is the classic case of people just trust themselves too much. When you get into the like, oh, there's a boat off the coast, just like hit it real fast with, a drone strike. That's where I'm like, oh God, there's a reason that due process is a thing. There's a reason that the founding fathers were extremely paranoid about any part of government becoming too powerful. And we're living through a period right now where, people want the government to be big, for sure. When you hear people talk about how many entitlements they want, when you look at the energy behind Mamdani, all of that stuff tells me they want big government on that side. And then you've got another faction that wants to see, because they believe in Trump, they want to see him extend his powers, use more executive orders, go into more countries, boss more people around. And it's like, oh God, like this is the very thing that the founders were warning against is, yes, when it's your team, you get very excited. When you believe in the cause, you love to see a good riot. When you don't believe in the cause, now all of a sudden it's like, hey, what are we doing? This is crazy. This is out of pocket. We got to send in the National Guard. Like we got to stamp this down. I am 100% guilty of that. Mm-hmm. When I think, yo, we can't let this go, I'm like, send in the National Guard 100%. But if Biden had been sending in the National Guard to places where it was something that I didn't agree with, because I really did not like what Biden was doing, I would have had a stroke. So I get, this is why you always want to flip it and look at, okay, my team is going to be out of office at some point. And do I want the people that I hate to have this ability? And if you do, great. If it's like, yeah, I've got no beef with that, cool, then push for it. If you would not want to see your quote unquote enemy wield that power, you don't want to let that power become standard. Yeah. And I feel like we're seeing a lot of that right now. You see a lot of the right cheering for this because, well, they like who's in power.
It's interesting to me, though, because I'm trying to find that balance between this is something that we're actually doing to try to keep Americans safe, and this is something that the administration thinks we're doing something to keep the American people safe, but it's kind of like a moving target. So it's almost like right after 9/11, the term terrorist meant no, just like you can't argue with it. If I say I'm going to get insurgents, Yep. Cat William has a great joke about that. Like, as soon as you say insurgents, it doesn't matter what's the next sentence after that. Insurgents, cool. Do whatever you want to them. Kill them. They have no freedom. They have no rights. It's fine because it's insurgents. But I feel like we're kind of getting into that territory by saying, hey, guys, fentanyl, let me do my tariff war.
Right.
Fentanyl, let me go into Mexico. Fentanyl. And as soon as people say that one word, it's like, okay, because I said that buzzword, now all accountability is gone, all due process is gone, Congress doesn't have to get involved. I'm going to use my emergency powers. How do we balance that? Because there is a crisis. I do care about the people that are overdosing, but at the same time, I don't want to just give Trump a free pass to go and move as he sees fit.
You need to, like, even if you're going to move the goalposts on what we're calling due process, you still have to have due process. Mm-hmm. So right now, if your due process is, I see boat moving, that boat's moving too fast to be anything other than fentanyl, like hit it, that's where I'm like, okay, hold on. Like, there is an error rate. I don't know what that error rate is, but there certainly is one. And so having the humility to say, is hitting are we willing to hit, let's say, 10% of innocent people to make sure that we catch 100% of the fentanyl coming in via that means? I would say that that's the wrong answer. So if you're going to say this is a big enough problem that we're willing to just, drone strike on site, then put the actual Navy in that area, patrol that, shut it down. I'm not saying don't take the actions, but if we're really saying that it's important enough to just keep drone strike, then it's important enough to get closer to these boats and find out what's really going on. Because, dude, I'm just telling you, the attitude of I see this so clearly, I know that we can just kill without getting on that boat, without seeing who's there. That logical fallacy of thinking that you can see things clearly, that you are the one that ought to be able to determine the acceptable cost, that you ought to be able to determine just anything can be an emergency. You get into this position where you'll get not only do you create a problem in that moment because there's no way that you're seeing it 100% clearly, but you're also going to just exacerbate the infighting because now you're taking these more and more extreme steps, which makes the other side feel like they have to take more and more extreme steps. So every time Trump does something, even when I agree with him, if he does it in an extreme way, I'm like, the second that you lose power, they're going to have the equal and opposite reaction, and they're going to start doing things just as aggressive, just as by fiat as you're doing, and it's not necessarily going to be things that the other half of the country agrees with. And the fact that they can't all see that, the fact that they can't recognize that what we need to be doing right now is working together, finding a path to meet each other somewhat in the middle, creating transparency around that. So if you're saying, listen, this is what we want them to agree with, they're not agreeing to it, these are their demands, like what's going on with the government shutdown right now. All right, fair enough. Like if we just can't agree on anything sensible, but at least let me know what we're talking about. Right now, what Trump is doing is just move fast, kill things, and then figure it out later.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because this is also starting to break on party lines. Somebody even said it on the chat, is that Trump is starting to look like a neocon. He's going after other countries. Some people are saying for resources. Venezuela has oil. There's a lot of oil reserves in Latin America. This is now a proxy war versus China. We need to get our hemisphere locked down, just like China has Africa and some other Asian countries locked down. So there's all these new subjective takes. I don't want to be Candace Owens and try to connect dots, but it does seem like it's not what we're being told is not what's actually true.
That's always going to be true. So politicians are always going to spin. You look, when we first started doing the lives, we made a James Burnham button because I was talking about it endlessly. People really do need to remember, read the book, The Machiavellians by James Burnham. He makes a very clear and cogent case for the fact that by their very nature, politicians, and I'll bucket elites in that, they are constantly trying to control the narrative. There's a reason for it. There's a very good reason why people want to control the narrative. It allows everybody to share a set of truth. It allows everybody to get on the same page and move together as one unified body, which, because we're in a moment right now where we can't do that, hopefully people can see what the value of doing that would be. Historically, that's been a lot easier to maintain. Social media made that effectively impossible. And so now you've got every narrative under the sun. And so the illusion that they create becomes so obvious that in many ways it stops working because everybody knows and feels I'm not being told the truth. And so the problem is once that center of gravity breaks and you no longer have a belief that there are 3 trusted sources, and there's going to be some discrepancy, but it's not going to be wild. We're going to more or less agree. We are way, way, way closer to the middle than we are right now, typically. And so it's like, okay, cool. Like I take this issue a little bit differently than you, but we're looking at the same thing. We agree roughly on a set of facts. And as that disappears, you start getting into like conspiracy brain, where now, because you don't have I can believe these trusted sources, it becomes, I can't believe anything anybody tells me except for whatever person you align with. And so once you get into that position, you start seeing things that aren't necessarily there. You start adding meaning to dots. The dots are really there, but you start adding meaning and connections to them that aren't real, that aren't true. And so this is going to have to play out, because you can't, at least from where I'm sitting, it would be a far worse disease to clamp down on this from the top down and say we're going to enforce one conversation, one set of truth, the way that they do in China or Russia. But it has a consequence when people don't trust anything.
Yeah, and he's getting some pushback, so I want to kind of set up a couple perspectives. So first, this is Rand Paul. He was on Piers Morgan yesterday, and he kind of came with an opposite take about the Venezuela situation.
Number one, there is no fentanyl made in Venezuela. Not just a little bit, there's none being made in Venezuela. These are outboard boats that, in order for them to get to Miami, would have to stop and refuel 20 times. They're in all likely going to Trinidad and Tobago, which is an island right off of the coast of Venezuela. So there's a lot of reasons to be worried about this. But number one is the broader principle of, when can you kill people indiscriminately? When you're at war. That's why when we declare war, it's supposed to be done by Congress. It's supposed to be thoughtful. It's supposed to be debated. And we're not supposed to do it willy-nilly. And then when you have war, you just kill people in the war zone. And even then there are rules of engagement. But interdicting drugs has always been a criminal activity and a criminal anti-crime sort of activity, where we don't just summarily execute people. We actually present evidence and convict them.
So is there a difference between how we traditionally approach it to what we're doing now? What do you think is kind of changing the landscape? Why do you think the game plan changed? And I'm going to jump to Mexico's president, who's denying it as well, and is actually pushing back on American people. But I wanted to set this one up first. You're
in fight or flight mode as a nation, based on economic problems that will not be interpreted as economic. It will be interpreted as political. When people are scared, that's what I mean by fight or flight. When people are scared, they're going to transmute that into anger, because anger it feels far better than anxiety or insecurity.
They're moving
then you need something to aim that anger at. If it doesn't have an anchor, it becomes hard to hold on to. Politicians understand intuitively or expressly that if I can point them at my enemies, then I can get them behind basically whatever it is that I'm trying to accomplish. And so right now, what you see, because we are in a populist moment, because of debt and inflation, let's just never lose sight of why we've ended up here. It becomes people have that anxiety. They want to be angry. Politicians give them something to be angry about. And then it's like you just sort of indiscriminately point it at whatever you want, using buzzwords, whether today's buzzword is fentanyl or terrorist or whatever. You use it and you get people all riled up. If you can get people to believe they're the reason that your loved one died, or they're the reason that your jobs are going away, they're the reason that you can't make ends meet, we just gotta get them, then people are going to be like, yeah, fuck it. I need somewhere to place this anger. I need someone to be angry at, because anger feels so good. And that's why we're in the moment that we're in. And the problem is that because so much of what's happening isn't going to solve our problems, you're getting more fear, more anger. And so people start lashing out. Now that also gets all mixed up with the fact that we have more reason to be worried now than we have in a very long time. From the dollar being devalued at just a distressing rate, the rest of the world starting to make slow, but they're making inroads in terms of getting the dollar to be used in fewer and fewer transactions. When you look at the number of central banks around the world that are holding US dollars, it's going down and down and down. So the US's position in the world is weakening. The U.S.'s position as a manufacturer has been obliterated for a very long time. AI is looming on the horizon in a way that is fucking with people. I don't think we're being honest about how anxious people are, and that anxiety just sort of sits in the back of the mind. So you put all of that together, and you're just getting this accelerating bundle of anxiety constantly being translated into anger at a time where you've got all of that. Plus, you had 4 years of just wide open borders. And so a lot of the things that people are pointing to are real. You really do have an immigration problem. You really do have a wage stagnation problem. You really do have an inflation problem, even if it's down now. Dude, since 1913, the US dollar has lost 96% of its value. And what that means is, back in 1913, if you wanted to buy something that cost $1 in 1913, okay, it cost $1, it would cost you $30 today. Think about something that costs you $1 right now, like a burger, like a cheap burger at McDonald's. I don't even know if they still do the 99-cent menu.
Nope, it's $3.99.
Oh my God. So this is what I'm talking about, dude. I lived off of the 99-cent menu for an extended period of time. And that is the, like, imagine the 99-cent menu is $30. That's the difference between then and now. And then if people want to be like, okay, but that's over 100 years, bro, in the last 5 years, you've had 25% inflation alone. So yeah, people are not, they're not able to track the cause and effect of how we ended up here, and therefore they will lash out at the real things, but they'll lash out in disproportion. So instead of saying, I'm going to be watching Japan very closely, my assumption about what Japan is going to do, because they're only at 3% immigrants, is that this is going to be a nice, orderly thing. These are the people that we're going to get out. We're going to go just sort of, knock, knock, gotta go. And they'll slowly over the next, call it 5 years, just push people out. Now, if they go unhinged, then okay, I will have been wrong. But my assumption is that given that they've acted early, given that the Japanese just tend to do things in an orderly fashion by culture, I think you can expect it to play out like that. And that is, I hope, going to be a model for many countries.
Yes, I definitely want to jump to Japan next, their new prime minister and her Ministry of Mass Deportation. But first, I want to round this out with Trump, because on the back of declaring war with the cartels, we're already kind of in this faux war with Venezuela. He also has just signed a domestic order claiming BLM and Antifa as domestic terrorist organizations. So this is from him signing the executive order.
And then also, so right before you play that, I want to make sure before we move off Trump that we talk about what he said to Hamas. I think this is a big deal if it ends up being true, but we'll get to that in a second.
Presidential memorandum on countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence. In recent weeks, months, and years, we've seen a tremendous upsurge in some highly visible, but also other acts of domestic terrorism and organized political violence being perpetrated by radical, politically motivated groups all over the country. What this presidential memorandum will do is set off an administration-wide response to that, ranging from the Joint Terrorism Task Forces to other components of the Department of Justice, to the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Treasury. We're looking at interdicting these groups, preventing them from performing acts of violence, and also looking at sources of organization and funding and support that prop them up and allow them to do the acts that they have been doing.
We're looking at the funders of a lot of these groups, and when you see the signs, and they're all beautiful signs made professionally, these aren't your protesters that make the sign in their basement late in the evening because they really believe it. These are anarchists and agitators, professional anarchists and agitators, and they get hired by wealthy people, some of whom I know, I guess, I probably know them. And you wouldn't know it. You're at dinner with them, everything's nice, and then you find out that they funded millions of dollars to these lunatics. Steve, could you say a couple of words?
Yes, Mr. President. This is a very historic and significant day. This is the first time in American history that there is an all-of-government effort to dismantle left-wing terrorism, to dismantle Antifa, to dismantle the organizations that have been carrying out these acts of political violence and terrorism. What we have seen, if you look at whether it be going back to the riots that started with Black Lives Matter and all the way through to the Antifa riots, the attacks on ICE officers, the doxing campaigns, and now the political assassinations. These are not lone, isolated events. This is part of an organized campaign of radical left terrorism. It is structured, it is sophisticated, it is well funded, it is well planned. There is really no parallel like this to anything else in the country right now. There is.
I want to kind of pause right there because I feel like he's saying a lot right there. What's your initial reaction? Because it seems like he's connecting everything from 2020 to what's going on now with Charlie Kirk kind of being the exclamation point. Do you believe it's like a coordinated effort? Do you think this is just kind of to that point of this is populism, people need a bad guy?
No, I think we're going to find out in the fullness of time that it's hyper coordinated behind the scenes. I've started seeing people putting out economic data on the NGOs and how they're donating money. And those groups, at least at the level that I'm at in my research right now, do seem to be involved in like the No Kings riots, the No Kings marches. So I will be very surprised if we don't find out that things like the George Soros Open Society Foundation aren't behind a lot of things like this. And there's several billionaires that are playing the game like that. So Mike Benz is the guy to look at for all this NGO stuff. I was blown away. I was literally changed as a human being researching him for the interview that we did together. Which shout out, I should have memorized the guy's name, but somebody on Twitter with a decent following sent the episode around saying this is one of Mike Benz's best episodes. So yeah, I encourage people to watch it. He is very good at showing the financial breadcrumbs of how these people are donating, what they're going to, how money moves around the NGOs, how this started when the CIA was basically taken before Congress and they're like, okay, so we're not going to be able to do some of the stuff we were doing before where we get a slush fund and we just go do all this stuff ourselves. So now we're going to get these NGOs to fund it for us. And that was wild because I had always had just a sort of generic belief that NGOs were do-good organizations. And the bad news is, I don't think any of these people think they're doing anything evil. I think that they are like, hey, we've got these companies, we've got a fiduciary responsibility to our shareholders, and by the way, we pick up companies that we think are, doing good things in the world. I'm probably being overly generous, but you get the idea. And so they go into a country and are like, well, if I do this and push on that lever and get to know this person, then we'll be able to corner the market on oil deals with whatever country in question. And that's going to be great for the shareholders that are invested in our fund. And so great, we made a lot of people a lot of money. This is wonderful. And my beef is with the lack of transparency, not understanding what they're doing, how much of this they're getting into trying to manipulate society itself. So there was a really interesting video put out about California by a friend of the show, What If Alt Hist. Shout out to our boy Rudyard Lynch. And in the video, he asked the question, why don't these billionaires build public service things like libraries and things like that, like they used to, and this is his quote, in extractive times. And so my answer to that is they don't, because they're so busy trying to remake society itself. They all believe that they've got the vision for where this ought to go, and they're willing to put their money into it. And so whether that's George Soros and everything he's doing with Open Society Foundation and getting DAs to be more lenient and all of that, or whether it's what Elon Musk is doing with getting hyper involved in politics, obviously, buying X and fighting for freedom of speech. It doesn't matter if you agree with them. What matters is this is where they're putting a lot of their time and attention, is saying, I have a vision of a better society. I've got the capital to make that real. So instead of making my contribution to the world that I'm just going to go out and build these buildings, which they'd probably get stuck in red tape and morass anyway of trying to get that across the finish line these days. But instead of that, what I want to do is I want to go to the infrastructure of what makes things better, or I want to fix the things that make it worse, or I want to build the things that make it better. And so people are going to disagree with a lot of their assessments, but that's the game that's being played right now.
It's interesting to me, though, because I definitely understand the sentiment behind it. But I do feel like connecting Charlie Kirk's assassination with the No Kings protests, with Black Lives Matter, with Antifa, is kind of lumping everybody on the same side. and just calling them all kind of political enemies.
Well,
and that's the
so-
part that I'm a little bit apprehensive about, is where it comes down to like the left is a domestic terrorist organization versus saying there are domestic terrorist organizations. And I know that designation seems like minute, but some people are seeing this as, okay, Trump is just doing, everybody who's not my political ally is now a political enemy, and not just an enemy that I'll battle with in Congress on the floor, but a political enemy that I'm gonna try to have executive orders against, and I'm gonna take judicial powers against. And I'm just worried that, again, when the tide goes to the other side, we're going to now say, okay, well, the Proud Boys and everybody who was on January 6th, they're now domestic terrorists, and let's go after. So it kind of seems like, I don't know if this is good because you're calling American people who were just marching 2020 because they were frustrated they were locked in the house and they kept seeing people die. I don't know if they're the same terrorists that we think they are versus the people who are actively causing insurrections, people who are actively doing bombs and Teslas and things like that. I just don't want a broad brush to be painted on everybody that ever protested against Trump, period.
I think that's very wise. The question becomes, why is he painting them with that broad brush? I think this will help people understand what Trump is actually doing. From where I'm sitting, Trump has a playbook in his mind, which is, okay, I can do executive orders, I can do emergency powers, and then I can get law and order back in place. I think if you try to map him as only a self-serving political animal, he'll confuse you. But if you map him as a self-serving political animal who actually does love America and actually wants law and order, again, you don't need to agree with him on those things. But if you're trying to map his behaviors, if you think of him as somebody who is extremely patriotic, loves America, wants to see America do well, not exclusively, because he is a self-serving politician, narcissist, megalomaniac in some ways. So like all of that is also true, but he also happens to love his country, and he's a big law and order guy. So when he looks out at the world and he sees people being violent, pushing back on things that he likes, now he's like, okay, wait, what was that stack of things that I have again? I have executive orders. Okay, I'm going to do what I can there. Oh, I have emergency powers. That'll really let me do some shit. Oh, wait, if I designate these guys as terrorists, then I've got all this stuff that I can do to them, including, because the big scary part in this meeting for me is you will notice going from right to left, you've got J.D. Vance, then Scott Bessent, okay? So Scott Bessent is very close to President Trump. That is not an accident. This order matters. Everybody's fighting to be the one that's standing right next to the president of this, I assure you. And so what Scott Bessent said when he came into office was, I spend most of my time doing economic warfare, okay? Let that sink in. So Trump, it wants to use that same economic warfare against the people that are marching against the things that he likes. So he's like, well, if you look and squint just this way, you can make them terrorists. Now, when they're classified as terrorists, I can do all this other stuff, including economic warfare. So I'm going to go after these people. Now, I can't sound a loud enough alarm bell, even though I am not a fan of Antifa, even though I am not a fan of much of what has come from BLM, making them terrorists so that you can go, no more bank account for you. That without like due process, I'm all for pursuing these people, build a case against them if they're doing something illegal that they shouldn't be, prosecute every single one of them. But just as, let's say that Letitia James ends up being guilty of everything that she's being accused of, I don't want to see anybody go, well, let's just first label her as a domestic terrorist, and then this gets a lot easier and we'll push her through the system that way. It's like, you've got to do the thing. You've got to go and build a case and prove it, because these guns can and will be turned on you at some point for whatever thing is that we do that's out of step with the government. And we want the government to be afraid of the people. We do not want the people to be afraid of the government. And so I'm perfectly willing to accept that there's going to be some amount of, dickheads on the street doing things in protest where it breaks violent. And rather than us just categorize everybody as a terrorist to make them easier to shove through the funnel, we're going to go, we have to go on the street. We have to arrest them. We have to build a case against them and then put them in jail. What I don't want to see is we go pick them up off the street, don't arrest them, or we arrest them, but let them back out. The charges are low. No. Like if you're throwing rocks at cops, bro, that changes your life. The second that rock leaves your hand, your life is different forever. You are going to jail 100%. So, and I don't care what side of the fence you're on. So throwing a rock at a cop needs to be a Rubicon because look, I'm a big believer in the Second Amendment. I am a big believer that, hey, if a government gets tyrannical, you've got to be prepared to stand up against it. But the reality is, just like if you think your wife is acting outrageous because she's about to be on her period, you better be sure that you're ready to play that card before you do it. Bro, before you say, I'm going to exert my Second Amendment rights because I think the government is tyrannical, before I throw this rock at a cop, dude, you've got to be like, yes, I'm going to change my life forever. It's that important to me. And if you fail to push that line that far back, your life is going to suck.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, anyway, the government should not be going so quickly to, you're a terrorist, because then it just looks like the Canadian trucker convoy to me, and that's absurd.
And I guess that's my worries, because we're seeing it already with the Venezuelan boats. Like, oh, no, they're drugs. That's cool. Then it's going to be like, oh, a bunch of these people got arrested. Oh, they're Antifa. It's cool. And we're just kind of now making these designations to just wave people off.
Yes.
100%. Yes. Ipso facto. Okay. I want to jump over to the Hamas thing that you brought up earlier. If I can find it on the doc, because now it seems like originally when we heard this, Hamas is going to find out, we're going to go after them and we're going to get them. Now it kind of seemed that the tone is changing, not necessarily that he's going to get them, but that he has had other people, other countries sign up to help out with him. So I think this is a big win because it alleviates us from getting in another forever war. But also it just can also show that there is pressure from the surrounding countries to actually clean up the region. So
yeah, if this ends up being true, and by the way, it's row 7, if it ends up being true, this is historic.
Yeah.
If he really has the surrounding Arab nations that are like, yeah, we'll put boots on the ground, we're prepared to go in and just absolutely hammer these guys into oblivion, that would be insanely impressive. Now, Trump is known for rhetoric, so he'll say a lot of things that doesn't necessarily come to fruition. But Drew, honestly, if he pulled that off, I would be more impressed that he got Arab nations to put boots on the ground in Gaza than that he got a peace deal between Israel and Hamas. Like, that would be just absolute legendary status. Now, no matter how you shake it or bake it, no matter who the troops are, if you're going door to door with guns, you're back in Iraq.
Yeah.
This is not going to go well. This will not be fast. It might be furious. It might be brutal, but it's not going to be fast.
Yeah.
So you will have insurgent on insurgent on insurgent.
It's going to be messy. Yeah.
So we will see how this plays out. But man, I don't know if people are watching the footage, but I saw a video of Hamas allegedly, because this could be old footage or whatever. I want to be so aware of how easy it is to bamboozle people now.
It was pre-peace deal.
Was it?
It's a little.
Oh, okay, then never mind. But yeah, it's that kind of stuff you can fall for so fast. Yeah.
But Hamas is definitely not angels. We got to change that narrative.
They're not sweet, innocent.
Yeah, they're not a charity in the middle in Gaza. Okay, this is the Trump social, the Truth Social. It should be Trump Social. He owns it. But either way, numerous of our now great allies in the Middle East and areas surrounding the Middle East have explicitly and strongly, with great enthusiasm, informed me that they would welcome the opportunity at my request to go into Gaza with a heavy force and straighten out Hamas. If Hamas continues to act badly in violation of their agreement with us, the love and spirit for the Middle East has not been seen like this in 1,000 years. It is a beautiful thing to behold. I told these countries in Israel, not yet. There is still hope that Hamas will do what is right. If they do not, an end to Hamas will be fast, furious, and brutal. I would like to thank all of those countries that called to help. Also, I would like to thank the great and powerful country of Indonesia and its wonderful leader for all the help they have shown and given to the Middle East and to the USA. To everyone, thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. As a writer, I have to take my hat off to Trump because he has a voice, man. Like when Trump tweets, you know it's a Trump tweet. Like it's very specific.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no way around that. Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening here, but I'm not super high hopes for peace between Israel and Gaza. This is why culture matters so much, and when your culture is, from the time you're a little kid, you're taught they're the enemy, they're the reason things are bad here. We've got to erase them from the map. I mean, that's what you grew up believing. That's going to be really hard to turn somebody around. So, and when your attempt to turn them around is a whole lot of bombs, that tends also to not work so well.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is when you try to win hearts and minds, it becomes very tough, man, Because if you try to win hearts and minds by giving them your value system, it will not work. So you've got to win hearts and minds by allowing them to have their own value system and making a bridge. Look, oh God, whenever you're trying to do something, look back in history and say, has anybody done this well before? And if they have, figure out what they've done. Here's the problem. The people that have done it well, Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, they both had the same 1-2 punch, Drew. And it is, ooh, buddy, that 1-2 punch is, I will kill every single one of you, man, woman, and child, in the most horrifying, brutal way that you can imagine if you defy me even once. But by the way, if you don't, I'll let you keep all of your traditions. I'll even wear some of your clothes so that you feel recognized. Like, I want you guys to thrive and do well. But did I mention, I will literally kill all of you. I don't care. Age, sex, doesn't matter. I will hack you to pieces in front of your family, one at a time. I will stack your limbs like fucking wood. But hey, I like your outfits, you guys. So the same two people that at one point basically were able to conquer the entire world, that was their strategy. So
you said
yikes.
You said something earlier. You were like, if you map Trump as a selfish madman, whatever like that, that's the wrong way to map him. Map him as somebody who loves America.
As a madman who loves America. Just to be very
No,
clear.
but I mean, like,
you've got to have both.
I think Putin loves Russia.
Yes.
I think Xi loves China. I think Mao loved China. But
Am I going to give you Mao?
No.
I'll give you everybody else. Yes.
But I do think he loved China. And I think that that's the thing, is like this whole greater good. And if I could just protect my people, it doesn't matter if the other people get like taken
No,
out.
it's not even quite that. Certainly not with Mao. The analogy that's just too perfect, but is so oft repeated that people really lose sight of how powerful it is. If you want to make an omelet, you have to break some eggs. So if you want to usher in the utopia, you have to kill tens of millions of people. It just is what it is. It's not that I want to. It's that if you want to make an omelet, you're going to have to break some eggs.
And that was Mao's.
That's Mao.
Got it. Okay.
So even if you grant that he wasn't essentially Jeffrey Dahmer on steroids, then that's the most you're going to give him. Now, I need to read. I just found out that he wrote a book on strategy. I knew he wrote a book on like essentially communist philosophies, but I didn't know he wrote one on strategy. So I need to read that because it is clear that he was brilliant. Like, I'm not saying this guy was a buffoon. He very much wasn't. But it's just, it is a scale of evil that is so hard for me to wrap my head around that I probably have done exactly what I warned people not to do with Trump and just pointed at all of his bad things. But the outcomes from Mao are unbelievable. People just do not understand what happened in China in recent memory.
Yeah. Linguo in the Linguo 567 in the chat said, did Hitler love Germany? Which is it's an interesting question.
Hitler really did love Germany. That one,
yeah.
I don't.
So when we critique Trump, at the end of the day, he's America's president. So I want America to do better. I want America to win. I have a daughter. America has to win at least till the next 60 years until she get out of here.
How dare you, Drew? Because she might have kids and
I don't know them.
Your grandchildren.
Oh,
Drew!
They're not here yet.
That? Okay, I'll give you that.
So it's one of those things that I want to make sure that when we are being critical of these people, it's not so that way they get chopped off at the limbs and they get disenfranchised or anything like that. I do want the American people to prosper. I do want them to be better. But I also want to make sure that in our pursuit of better, we realize how much freedoms we're giving up. We're realizing how much due process we're giving up. And we're realizing how much things we're letting slide based off of blank. It's okay if they don't have due process because they're illegal. It's okay if they don't have due process because of fentanyl. It's okay if they don't have due process because they're a domestic terrorist. And I just want to let you know that it started off with one label. Now we're at like 7. And before you know it, it's okay that they're this because they're Democrats. And you know what I mean? And I just want to make sure we understand the trajectory of it. So just like rent control will lead to start eating the babies with socialism. I get that. I'll say stop at rent control. I want to make sure that these now 4 labels that we added since Trump's been in office has lost their due process. I just want to make sure we're okay that 4 might turn into 10. It
really doesn't matter if people are okay with it. It's the kind of thing that spirals out of control. This is why you have checks and balances in the government. So yeah, we really we've got to see all this stuff go through the courts. There's just no two ways about it. Now, look, every time he does something, it's being challenged and this stuff is going through the courts. So, it is, there's a lot of things that he's doing that are harrowing, and I really hope that he does not do this ever expanding list of domestic terrorism. I hope that he does not do the economic warfare against America's own citizens. I hope that he does continue to fight on the ground level. I'm all for sending in troops when you have a block of a city where the city just refuses to clean it up. That kind of stuff. Yep. Love that. People need to be safe 100%. But man, you don't get there by making everybody equally afraid. And like when I look at a stat, and it's a stat and I've used it myself, but when I look at a stat like the UK arrests 30 people a day for things that they post online, which is more by like a lot than the number of dissidents in Russia. But I'm like, yeah, in Russia, they know to be afraid of the government. In England, they're constantly now being caught off guard because they don't realize, wait, what? Like they're all, not all, but most of them are surprised. They have no idea that you can get in trouble for this. Yeah. So it's a little bit unfair to run that stat because this is really like when you've been locking people up for 100 years, people get the hint, shut the fuck up. Yeah. So in the UK, they're just now realizing that the sort of common law of, yeah, like you can say whatever you want to say. We haven't enshrined freedom of speech, but you more or less have freedom of speech. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, because it's not enshrined, they're getting arrested for stuff that they say online that makes people anxious or distressed. Like I just literally can't believe that's true. They're caught off guard.
I want to pull up Darius. Darius said, go repeal the Patriot Act, quit blaming Trump for playing the game, complaining about symptoms, not the sickness. I definitely get that sentiment. Patriot Act allowed them to spy on texts, emails, all those other things. That didn't green light the drone. And that was also like Guantanamo Bay. So while, yes, Patriot Act did have its own Breaking Bad moment, I do want to say that labeling a domestic terrorist group through executive order is a little bit different than the Patriot Act. But I want to know kind of your perspective from the Patriot Act, because I know you just talked about it with the digital ID, deep dive, and things like that.
Yeah, so I'm glad he's bringing this up. And to your point, I also don't have beef with the sentiment. The specifics, I think, get a little weak. But so one, I think we have to blame Trump for playing the game. We need a leader that can rise above it. We need a leader right now that can rise above it. Trump is not going to be that person. The only person that I see even sort of remotely that gives me these vibes, but I have not analyzed his positions well enough to know, would be Marco Rubio. He has a more calm sensibility about him. He's no nonsense for sure. Anyway, okay. So I think you have to hold Trump accountable to that. You need a leader that is going to try to find a way to the middle. But at the same time, 100% we should repeal the Patriot Act. We spy on American citizens in a way that is beyond egregious. And we keep reinstating it, which to me is just absolute insanity. Once you start mapping politicians as people that want control, people that are full of resentment, want control, it's like all of a sudden, oh, that's why we keep doing all of these things. And we are making a Faustian bargain right now. We used to be the country that was like, okay, it's freedom over everything. I think it's New Hampshire that on their license plate, it says, give me freedom or give me death. I mean, like it's
was that Paul Revere? No, Paul Revere was the British.
Paul Revere was the bad guy.
Yeah.
No, Paul Revere
the
rode.
British are coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Who was the bad guy? Who am I thinking of?
Who's giving me freedom? Give me death.
Oh God.
Come on.
Anyway,
somebody
doesn't matter.
Knows. Yeah, somebody in the chat knows. Who's giving me freedom?
On
give me
their
death,
license plates, and that captures the vibe of the era. Oh, it's really gonna bother me if I can't Arnold.
Arnold.
Yes, exactly.
Benedict Arnold? No.
Benedict Arnold.
Benedict
Yes.
Arnold. Let's go. Let's go, chat. Let's go.
Jesus.
I got a scholarship. I'm smart.
I'm gonna put myself to sleep after this.
People are cooking you for the Marco Rubio thing that he's next up. I would say Marco Rubio
They're cooking
you because they say Marco Rubio, he's the worst, but
really?
Marco Rubio does have a crazy rebrand. People forgot he ran for president, got laughed off the stage, disappeared for 2 weeks. Now he came back as like Secretary of State dude, and I'm brokering all these deals.
Everything I've seen from him is amazing.
His rebrand is very recent. So
New Hampshire license plate. Thank you, Jay Mayer.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was Thomas Paine that said it. All right. Anyway, the point being that we've made a Faustian bargain. We used to be give me freedom or give me death, and now we're give me safety and I'll accept tyranny. But for real.
No, that's
and
true.
It's since 9/11, that's really been the vibe. And every time that I take my shoes off in an airport, I want to like knock over all the equipment. It is absolutely ridiculous. The number of people that have talked about that this is like safety theater. This isn't real. This isn't the thing that's actually protecting you. So I want to see us get back to, yes, America is about freedom first. Why freedom first, you ask? Because freedom is the backbone of innovation. Why do we care about innovation? Innovation is the single thing that led us to being the greatest country on earth. From an economic standpoint, people having better quality of life here than anywhere else. Also from a sort of quasi-religious standpoint of the idea that every individual has a spark of divinity in them. I think that's the right way to view humans. So we got all of that right. And then innovation requires people to be able to be wrong and that they're given the space to run those experiments, to do what they see fit. This gave birth to capitalism. This gave birth to all of the technological advancements that we've seen because enough people were like, okay, well, if you think that's the way, go see if you can get money to do it. And people weren't stopped in their tracks in the way that they are in a top-down command control economy. Like, for instance, ask yourself, what's one of the highest selling video games of all time? It's a small game called Tetris. Did the guy that invented Tetris make any money? No. Why didn't he make any money? Because he was Russian. And so the Russian government was like, nope, we don't get down with capitalism. So like, dude, the guy that made Tetris should be like Notch Rich. I think that's his name. The guy that, Notch, that made Minecraft. And the guy that made Minecraft lives in one of the biggest, fanciest houses in all of America. And the guy that made Tetris like lived in a shanty apartment forever. And like they almost couldn't get Tetris made because the Russian government was so opposed to it being this like capitalistic success. So they made a whole movie about it. It's pretty wild. So anyway, like if we want to get back to America winning, we have to understand that we're going to need to take more risks. We have to balance the budget. When you have to balance a budget, you suddenly get very real about what things you're going to pay for and what you're not. And if that means that people can't retire until they're 75, 80, if you have to work until the day you die, it is what it fucking is, because you've got to be like, I think what people are saying is the one thing that we care more about than anything is healthcare. Great. If that's what Americans are deciding they want to spend their money on, cool. But you can't just keep spending money that you don't have. Like you literally can't do it. This is like people saying, I'm going to keep drinking cyanide because it gives me like Popeye's spinach. It gives me strength. Okay, great. But just so you know, every time you take it, you shorten your life by 5 years. So it's like you can only take it so many times before you're just fucking dead. So that's the part that people do not seem to understand. Hey, all those things that are happening in your life, like you can't afford rent, you can't afford groceries, all of that. Guess what that is? That's deficit spending. That's why. The very reason you're in this situation, is because every year you're like $2 trillion of deficit spending. So deficit spending isn't real. What it means is you have to print money. I don't think people realize that. So you're not actually deficit spending. You're just saying, I don't want to pay this. Like there are two ways that I can pay for something. There's the way that I can see on my pay stub because it says you paid this much in taxes for these things, or the invisible way where it's still happening. It's still taking purchasing power technically, but I'm going to say it takes your money just to make it nice and easy. It takes your money, but it just doesn't show up on your pay stub, but you're still losing out. And so it is insane to me that because we make one of them invisible, people just keep spending the fucking money. So, yeah, we've got to get back to wanting, like, I'm willing to take some risk in order to get the upside of freedom and innovation.
All right, we got some super chats. We got to jump into. Can we read Arian Brown's first?
Absolutely.
By the way, Mason, you're going to have to cut around all the like side quests there, but I made sure I gave you an ending. So we'll get a beginning to that. You've got one idea.
Clip that.
There it is.
Thank you very much. All right, so first up from Arian Brown, Rokana said, if inflation was matched by wage growth, then of course you wouldn't have the issue. Wrong. Wage growth in the eyes of the Fed is inflationary because you now have more capital to bid up prices.
That's not true. So the only time that wage growth would be inflationary is if you're having to create more debt in order to get that. Now, if we're creating debt in order to pay people more wages, then the debt is what's inflationary, but the increase in wages is not. Because you could, in theory, just be moving those dollars, allocating them from one thing to another. If raising people's wages causes all products to go up in price, then that would be inflationary. Technically, it wouldn't be inflationary. Prices would go up and people would call it inflation. Remember, inflation is mechanistically, definitionally, an increase in the money supply. That's why it's called inflation. The thing that is inflating is the money supply. So this is where we get into nuance, but you have to tease apart the difference between rising prices and inflation. Now, the only thing people really care about is the rising prices, so they often conflate the two things, but they are separate phenomena.
Your beef with the debt,
Yeah.
does that apply to Argentina, or do you think there's certain exceptions?
Meaning, should we be giving money to Argentina?
Should be giving 40 billion to Argentina.
Unless there is something I don't know about Argentina, no, we should not.
Love that.
So here's the reality. We have to find out what is true. So there's something called the physics of progress. There's also another thing, that's my label for it. There's another thing called a natural experiment. A natural experiment is like, I really wish I would know if XYZ theories worked in practice. Oh shit, Argentina's running them. Cool, let's find out what happens. And if you go in and shore everything up in a socialistic way, you've not found out if these things will actually work. Now, there's 1,000 confounding variables, including things going on inside of his country, all different trade things that they might be struggling with. So I'd have to really look deeply into that problem to see what's going on. But America is in dire straits. We're in late stage empire vibes. And I don't mean that in like a cutesy way. I mean, literally, I can just show you exactly where and exactly why we are in late stage empire position, why it's so problematic, why you've got, without any change, roughly 10 years before you cross the 130% mark. And remember, it's not a binary moment. This is why we're already seeing violence. What I'm saying is over the next roughly 10 years, that you're going to see that violence increase as we're right now at 122% debt to GDP. As that marches towards 130, people will just get more and more violent for all the reasons I've talked about 1,000 times. The economy becomes more erratic. They are more likely to be underwater from a debt perspective personally, have a harder time paying their bills. The government becomes far more likely to default on its debt because the world stops being interested in their debt. This is exactly what I cover in the deep dive coming out on Monday, which is about Anton. I can never remember his last name. But the Russian guy who was like, America's going to cram their shove, I think was his literal word. America's going to shove their $37 trillion debt into a crypto cloud, and they're going to devalue it for the whole world. And he's right. That is 100% what America is going to do. But that's exactly what they should do. That is the best thing for literally everyone in the world, unless you're betting against the dollar. So it's immoral, inflation. Inflation is immoral. But it is what you have to do, even if America is going to keep spending like a drug addict, which I have every reason to believe that they are. That still at least elongates the time where there's appetite for the debt, which reduces the likelihood that we will default in the near term, which gives more people time to exit out of the system in a more orderly fashion. Okay, that is like the worst case. It's still amazing. Best case scenario is Trump continues to be. Scott Besson put out a report that says Trump is spending less money. I am admittedly a little skeptical, but if he actually is reducing the budget, that would be amazing. If we can get growth going, get the budget in line, then you actually have a shot of stabilizing your empire. So that is one potential upside. Well, I'm super, super skeptical that we'll do it or pull it off. But we do want there to be an appetite for American debt for a nice, long period of time. You don't want something acute. If you have something acute, it becomes tragedy, essentially.
Yeah, love that. Well said.
Next up from Kevin Bradshaw. If America was founded from immigration, why is every country now worried about immigration? What was it, the type of immigrants that was different, or?
Yeah, this is something everybody's going to have to come up with their own moral framework for. But let's speed run America's founding. Hey, we found land. This is awesome. We're going to take it. Wait, there are people here. That's cool. We can kill them all. Kill. And the ones that survive, because now we've got enough people here, we're starting to feel guilty about all the people we're killing, put them on reserves, give them some special rights. Also, make sure they've got plenty of alcohol so they just fucking derail themselves. And then let's build up this country around them, which we did. And by the way, the country...
We got a lot of land. Let's get some niggas in here to till it. All right. Yep. Cool. All right. Yep.
I might have used different words, but there was some of that. Now, admittedly, that was only in the South, but...
This is like drunk history. This is...
Hey, so we do not create America in like the most honorable of ways, let's say that. But we do nonetheless end up building the most incredible country on planet Earth. And when you look at humans as a entity inside of the simulation, for whatever reason, we were given this really fascinating mix of a desire for exploration, a desire to create safety and stability, a desire to, especially if you came from a climate with seasons, a desire to plan for the future. And so you put all of that together. Oh, and by the way, an absolute hatred of tyranny. And so America is the result of, I've got to get the fuck out of these places. Government saying, I've got to send people over to capture all the riches of these places. And so you put those two things together and you get people here that are ultra risk taking, that are essentially, cannon fodder isn't the right word, but it was like England knew, Spain knew, as they're sending people over by just the absolute boatload, that like 85%, Mason, that might not be the exact number, but it's directionally close, are going to die like within 3 years. So they were just like, flood the shores with people, and enough of that 15% will stick that over time we'll have a colony, we can extract the resources. And then as more and more governments became tyrannical and more settlements were actually there, they just started sending people over, people started sending themselves over that were like, I want to get away from this tyranny. I want to make sure that I've got this land of opportunity. I want to take my shot. Literally, video games are the right way to think about this. Some people want to live life on hard mode. They're in it. People are asking right now, what's going to happen when the AI comes and they're better than us at everything. Energy costs drop to zero. Everything is basically free. We have a life of abundance. What happens? I'm telling you right now, there are exactly 3 answers. We know because history tells us so. Answer number 1, some people will go to Mars so that they can live life on hardcore mode. Some people, that's just what they want. And so all those people will have their outlet, right? And the Unabomber will be in his grave finally able to rest in peace because now people have problems to solve again in the sweet spot. Then there'll be another cadre of people that just do drugs, okay? A brave new world. They are gonna be like, this is awesome. I can always afford alcohol. I can always afford fentanyl. I can always afford heroin, whatever. And they will do drugs until the end of time, or food, or whatever their thing is. And then the third category, and this is very much where I count myself, they will go inside of virtual worlds and they will play life on hard and interesting mode in a way that is fine-tuned to be this incredible ride. Now, it is very possible that we're already in a simulation. So for people that just discount it, because that, I think the mental mistake people make is they just discount all of that. And I'm like, did you guys not see The Matrix? The moral of the Matrix story is being awake in the Matrix is dope. Being reinserted into the Matrix so that you don't know you're in the Matrix is ass. So anyway, those are your 3 options. So that was the speed run of America. That is the thing that I think people have a morally difficult time with. It is exactly what's going on in Israel, Palestine. It's exactly what's going on in Cyprus, which is divided between the Turks and the Greeks. Like, we see this over and over and over. And it's only when something happened in recent memory that we're like having heart palpitations, clutching our pearls. Native Americans were slaughtering Native Americans for God knows how long before we got here. Land is constantly being exchanged. People are constantly being killed. Women are constantly being raped. Like, people just read a bit of history if you want to understand. So this is everybody, always and forever, for all time. And so this recent thing where we're like, some people are good and honorable and other people are bad, that is so historically ignorant that I don't know what to do with that. And so what we have to answer is, when you get a killer outcome from really morally abhorrent things, what do you do? And so like Canada starting to like give some land back to the natives, that is full retard. That is so ridiculous.
It's a toothpaste problem, guys. Like it's out the tap. Like let's clean up the sink. Let's figure out how to brush our teeth tomorrow. Right. You can't put it back in. Like we're not going backwards. All right,
Frank, I can't understand why Frank is saying Hitler was really bad. If you want to talk about a statement that I'll agree with no hesitation, yep, Hitler was really bad. That feels like a non sequitur.
And shout out to Kevin, because I love it when the chat helps us transition. Because speaking of immigration, let's go across the pond. I don't have an Irish accent. O'Hare.
This is going to go bad fast.
Connor, yeah, this is terrible. This is all I got, guys.
I don't even know what the hook would be. Like, at least for the Brits, you've got like top of the morning and things like. Although that sounded more Irish, if I'm completely honest. So
yes, give me all your Conor McGregor Irish accents in the chat, please. We're jumping over to Ireland because tensions are rising. Citizens are setting stuff ablaze. Vehicles are getting overturned after a 10-year-old girl was raped allegedly by an African migrant, but nothing was done. If we just have this playing in the background, so it's getting like pretty spicy. We have some on the ground commentary, but just initially we're seeing rocks getting thrown out there. I don't mean to laugh at it. The dumpster thing is hilarious. I don't know if you've seen it at the end of this video. Guys, watch this. Hold on, it's coming. This guy was so excited. Hold on. It's coming. You see that little orange like dumpster thing?
The funny thing is I thought maybe there was something incendiary inside of it.
Yeah.
So if I was a cop, I wouldn't find that funny. I was surprised they didn't back away from it.
Like this is like, you can say what you want. I feel like this is antagonistic. Like some of these people need to get locked up. Like this is kind of crazy.
If you are throwing things at cops, you are saying,
here it is, y'all. Here it is.
My life changing.
And then it just stopped. And he was so mad. He was so mad. He thought he was doing something. But okay, yeah. What's going on? I understand that there's pushback. But is this the way to solve the immigration problem?
This is not the way, but this is what is going to happen. Mm-hmm. So this is one, Drew. I don't know what to do with the fact that humans will not change course until they are suffering so much that you reach this kind of boiling over point. This is when I really do feel like whether we are programmed in a simulation or not, we act like it. It is the perfect metaphor. And so all of this is super predictable. You've had plenty of people screaming about this from the tops of the roof. You had, why do I always blank on his name? Man, Strange Death of Europe, The Madness of Crowds. Dave Smith is not an expert. Somebody please.
Douglas Murray.
Thank you. Douglas Murray. He wrote a book where he was like, boys and girls, you will push these people, meaning England, Western Europe, into a corner and they will eventually respond violently. This was 5 years ago, 7 years ago. Like it didn't take a genius to figure out this is, yes. Like, okay. I really think the big problem is that people are super confused with racism versus value system problem. If I could just get everybody to understand, people don't care about sexism. People don't care about racism. They just want to hear people that believe the things that they believe. This is why Japan elected a female prime minister. When you get a female prime minister who's just full gangster and is like, I want all these people out, then it's like, oh yeah, I don't care that it's a woman. I just need somebody that's hardcore. I need somebody that matches my energy. I need somebody that thinks the way that I think. I don't need somebody white. I need somebody that matches my energy, that thinks the way that I think. That's it. And so because we spent God knows how much time wasting time arguing about race, we missed the fact that this is a values problem. And when values is the one thing people will kill for. Values. And I don't know, people like
give me liberty, give me death. I'm gonna kill you.
Yes. People cannot map to why do people slaughter for their religion? Because religion is a way to transmit values. God said this thing, man. He said this thing matters. I'm willing to lay my life down for it. Okay. So what you're seeing now is people that have been pushed too far and they're spilling over. And I think violence is stupid. I think that letting it get to this point was ridiculous, which is why I'm going to be watching what goes on in Japan like a hawk, because my hope is that they've responded so early. I forget, somebody said that the immigrant number in the UK is 35%. I don't know that it's that high, but it's high. It's double digits for sure.
Yeah.
And if Japan's number really is 3% immigrant and England's or UK's is really double digits, you get Japan acting now, getting somebody that's like, hey, we're going to solve this immigration problem immediately. That's when you do it. You do it at 3%. You don't wait until it's 15%, 20%. That's where you start really having problems.
And then this is kind of on the ground reporting. It's literally as he's talking, there's like fire behind him. It's kind of chaos. So it's to your point that this is not something that's going away. I just hope that it's not something that's going to get worse, but it seems like we're going in that direction.
So I'm here at the protest at City West Hotel, where a migrant, an asylum seeker that was supposed to be deported, stayed in
Literally,
the
there's a
country
cop car on
and
fire
raped
behind
a 10-year-old Irish girl that was in state care. As you can see, things are massively kicking off here. There's probably well over 1,000 protesters. Unfortunately, this isn't the first crime we've seen like this, even in the last year or two. So things are really reaching a boiling point here.
It is nuts. I feel like ICE is the American equivalent of, all right, we need to round it up, kind of get these people out of here. Do you think it's as simple as they just needs to be Irish ICE, a UK ICE, round some people out, kick people out, and everybody's like, yes, we're happy now?
It's going to be a multi-pronged approach. So they are going to need to do that. They need to start enforcing the laws, and they need to have a go-forward immigration plan. So are people still coming into the country? Like, is this something that's exacerbating itself? So you are going to have to do all of that. And then I don't know what their rules are against people speaking out about this. Like, I don't know what city was it? Was that Dublin?
I'm not sure what city it was.
So I know that a small part of Ireland is Northern Ireland, and that falls under UK rule, but the vast majority of Ireland does not. So I'm pretty sure that's under the does not. So I don't know if they're clamping down on people in the way that the UK is in terms of what you can say. The UK won't even let you talk about this. The UK has arrested Tommy Robinson God knows how many times. And so if they're doing that, they're going to make the problem worse, because if in this moment people feel stifled, then they're going to push back even harder. So you need to let people talk about this. You need to let them come up with legislative solutions that are going to certainly stop the problem from getting worse. And then you're going to have to find a way to get rid of the illegal immigrants for sure. I would say in an orderly fashion would be ideal. And then you have to figure out, okay, if we let a ton of people in the country already, now what do we do? Because if you've got people that are there legally and they have come in under your laws, they followed everything, and now they're there, but they're an immigrant, what can you do to, my take would be to get them to assimilate. So things like the US, if we haven't already, and I don't think we have, but we should have an official language, should be English, mandated by law. Everything should be in English, full stop, period, end of story.
When you say everything, we're talking like
anything the government puts out.
Gotcha.
So if taxpayers are paying for it, it should be in English.
Yeah.
Things like there's the big debate on the driver's license test. Should somebody have to speak English to get a driver's license? To me, obviously, yes. So there are things like that you can do to force people to assimilate. And we should certainly be doing those things. And then I'm going to guess countries like this should as well. I do not like the idea, if we legally let you come here, I do not like the idea of, sorry, now you got to go. If you did everything by the book, you came in, you followed the rules, all of that, I'm not a fan of booting them out. But if you came here illegally, GTFO.
Yeah. I'm biased on this issue, so I tend to be quiet about it, because I think something that the Trump administration has done recently was TPS status. People who legally come here, they walk through the airport, they registered, they weren't, getting snuck in backpacks over the border. Now they're like, yeah, sorry, game's over, like time to wrap it up. And those are the people that are kind of caught in some of this limbo as well, because they've been here 3-4 years, they got a job, they pay rent.
And TPS is temporary protective service.
Yeah, status. Yeah,
status. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like, I get it that you're like, well, we flipped the switch, now you're illegal. It's like, yes. But that's kind of sad that you're seeing some of those people kind of leave. But again, Team America, if this is what the president wants to do, that's what the president wants to do. I'll just make sure I get out there for the midterms and next year's presidential election, and I'll vote for somebody that would make sure that the people who have done things the right way get rewarded the right way, and people who've done things illegally get persecuted hard, 100%. Stuff like that. Let's jump over to Japan now, where our original link got community noted, but there's a new...
Really? What's a community? Oh, because that... Okay, so... what you'll notice very quick if you start doing research is she's like the minister of mass immigration or something.
Yeah.
So she's not the new whatchamacallit?
The actual prime minister. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny that they, that they conflated the two.
But there is a new policy. The new prime minister immediately created a a ministry of mass deportations.
Mass deportation?
Mass deportation, excuse me. I said mass deportations. And then this is a speech that
This is the prime minister.
Yeah, this is the prime minister, and this is a speech that she said about kind of ruling it out. It's interesting because Japan is going through a population decline, and instead of trying to import replacement people, they would much rather hunker down, but we'll get into that. Let's see what she says first. As for me, I want to have a calm, mutually considerate relationship with foreigners. How can we live together in such a way? I intended to reconsider it completely. I plan to think about it from zero again, because year after year, the culture between us and everything else is so very different, yet people are being brought in altogether. To keep bringing them in, this policy, we must pause and reconsider. Those who come with economic motives and claim to be refugees, such people will be properly sent home. Also, regarding those who overstay illegally, they too will be strictly required to obey the law. Yeah. So it seems pretty straightforward. I don't see malicious intent. She's not saying, get the Muslims out here or anything like that. However, because of the demographics of Japan, is this a surprising turn?
No. I mean, it is an absolute tragedy that the birth rates are so low in so many cultures. Mm-hmm. As somebody who has chosen not to have children, admittedly, I always feel bad about pointing out how important it is for people to have kids. But on balance, if the majority of people aren't having children, you've got a problem. And obviously, because it takes two people to make a kid, you need them having more than two kids. So Japan is really in bad shape from a demographic standpoint. But the reason that I'm a Japanophile is because Japan is different. If Japan were the same, then there would be no draw. And the funny thing is, I really discovered Japan as like an area of super interest very late in my life. I was always intrigued, I admit. The cyberpunk aesthetic has always spoken to me since the 80s. But really learning about Japanese storytelling and how potent of a style of storytelling it is. And because they had the nuclear bombs dropped on them twice, they just became such a fascinating culture. Watching them shift from like the ultra hardcore samurai culture to watching that become the salaryman culture to seeing like how they respond to repression. Dude, I'll try to do a speed run on Japanese culture.
Yeah, my bad. I did practically you right there. But.
So, okay, speed run on Japanese culture goes something like this. We are a small island nation. We have to get very hardcore. We have a very collectivist mentality, very disciplined, very much like samurai culture for sure was you were willing to give your life for the person that you work for. And if you ended up, they died or whatever, you became a ronin, you had to just like wander around. There's so much honor culture, all of that, like honor means everything. And they build all that up. The Mongols try to conquer Japan and get pushed back twice. They're like the only culture that was like, get the fuck out of here. Mongols rolled over everybody, but not the Japanese, okay? That's who you're up against. Mm-hmm. Japan fucked up China. In fact, China now is like, oh, bitch, wait till we get big. We are going to mow over you. Rumor, allegedly. But like that one is, there's a lot of bad blood there. So Japan were like sort of tyrannical and very good because they were so disciplined, militaristic, like really, really hardcore. And then we dropped some bombs on them. And now it's Hello Kitty. So it's like, what happened?
I love these speed runs. This is the only way I want history now.
So it is this incredible transformation where you can still feel that really brilliant engineering culture, the collectivist mentality, which I've spoken many times about how much I absolutely despise it. But they also have, like, you can feel the repression like bubbling up and coming out in these really interesting ways. And they're like this fascinating blend of Buddhism and Christianity now. And so they've just created this really, really fascinating, like tech forward, very futuristic, but the blend of the past and the future and this sense of like post-apocalyptic because they've really lived through a post-apocalypse, like, and the sense that, oh my God, we were the villains in World War II, but America helped us rebuild. So there's this really interesting relationship that they have with their own past. But that hardcore culture doesn't just go away. So they created this generation of salarymen who basically work themselves to death, literally to death. And the hard work culture there went from like these very rigid caste structures into a modern style economy. But because they were so disciplined, so hardworking, literally willing to work themselves to death, they just, through the 80s, it looked like they were going to take over the whole world. And that's why if you look at like, even movies like Back to the Future 2, all the anxiety is around, we all work for the Japanese. This is why in Die Hard, his wife works for a Japanese company. Like it just looked like the Japanese were going to take over everything. Then through some economic jujitsu, we were like, all right, you guys need to chill. And we sort of have put them in timeout for 40 years. Whole nother long story there. But like that has given birth to a style of storytelling that literally dwarfs the rest of the world. I cannot tell you enough how in America we think, oh, Marvel's the comic book that rules the world, right? And then you realize Demon Slayer, which is a single manga title, outsells every single Western comic title combined. Combined, Drew. In Japan, a single what's known as a tankobon, which is like a collection of, I forget, it's like 6 standalone episodes of manga of a series called Bleach, The 1,000-Year War. No, sorry, lie. It was Boruto. Boruto, which is like the successor to Naruto, if people know that one, sold 10 million units. That's insane. In physical print. Dude, that's insane. So, and that's in Japan alone. If you go into any airport, you're going to be able to find manga. It's wild. So the Japanese have found what I did not make up this title, but I think this is really bang on, what's known as illicit storytelling. So it's something a kid wants to read, but they don't want their parents to see that they're reading it. And when you like look at children's entertainment in Japan, it's dope. Like people getting shot, they're bleeding. It's like even in One Piece. In One Piece, Luffy D. Monkey, this is for kids, okay? In the opening like chapter of One Piece, the kid's like 9 or 10 years old. To prove that he can be a dope pirate and that he's not afraid, this kid in a book for kids, a graphical book, stabs himself in the face with a knife. And through the rest of the series has a big scar on his face, okay? They show it. He takes a knife and just stabs himself in the face. Okay, so the Japanese don't play. There's this like fascinating thing that you can feel the repression below the surface and it bubbles up in a way that other people around the world are like, oh my God, there's some truth in this, that even though it's bombastic and over the top and completely outlandish, it speaks to something in people. So anyway, that difference, we all benefit as a society if that difference is preserved. And if that difference, whether it be Italy, China, Japan, Korea, America, England, Saudi Arabia, if those differences aren't preserved, the world becomes way less interesting. And what we're seeing now is people realizing, oh, those differences are born of values. And oftentimes those values are spread through religion, but some of it's just continuity of what were your parents like, what were their parents like. And so what we're seeing through mass immigration is the beigeification of the world. And it sounds good because it sounds tolerant and it sounds welcoming, but in the end, it sucks. And it sucks because you don't get different flavors. Everything becomes one flavor. And then, and here's the big thing people don't want to confront, whoever becomes the most aggressive culture, the most cohesive culture is going to win. If they have high birth rates, agenda, they know what they're trying to do, then they're just going to run through everybody. 100%. And right now, the culture that seems to be doing the best at that is Muslim culture. And so it's like, that's why so much of this centers around, okay, wait, are we mad at Muslims? I would say, no, you're not mad at Muslims. What you're mad at is anybody that has a different value system than you coming in is going to be a problem. It's just that they actually have a clear agenda and they're not bashful about their faith. They believe in it. This is what we believe. And so wherever we go, we are going to proselytize. You will notice there are a lot of Christian countries. Why? Because this is what Christians did back in the day. So it's like, hey, this is a tale as old as time. This is not about being Muslim. This is about doing a thing that works. So now we're seeing people go, yeah, I'm not for this.
So it seems like, I want to say that you said their migration rate was like 3%. So to that point of Japanese discipline from a society perspective, just their culture, it seems like she's trying to get ahead of the problem as opposed to allow it to become a tension on society like we see in Ireland, like we see in the UK, like we see in the US. So she says, all right, let's just get in front of it. We let some people who got in, and now we'll just kind of...
We'll see. I don't know how they're going to play it. So obviously they're going to be emigrating people out of their country. I don't know if they'll focus exclusively on people that are illegal or if they'll do something like what it sounds like what Trump wants to do, which is illegals and immigrants that do something illegal.
Yeah.
So I have no idea how they're going to break. That's why I'm saying we got to watch this, but it'll be very interesting. Now, I know some Westerners that live in Japan, and long before this started being an issue, they're like, we're treated like second-class citizens. So I don't think Japan is afraid to be hostile to foreigners in a way that foreigners would read as hostile. I heard her words. They were very metered. I love that. But yeah, I don't think Japan is afraid to be.
Look at that metered word from a country leader. What? That happens? People are like that? Who would have thought?
Not in America.
Who would have thought? Okay, I want to get some clarity on the beigification of the world.
Let's go.
Some people need to even know what beige is, but we'll come back to that. I don't want to say this is your solution. Is a solution then, not that we necessarily put up lines, but like the Chinese stay in China, the Italians stay in Italy, the Mexicans stay in Mexico, Americans
I would
stay
say
in
it slightly
American.
differently, which is I love me a good foreign-born American.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a friend in college, grew up in Paris, and despised Parisians. And she was like, in America, these are my people, meaning it's not crabs in a bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is her interpretation, but she did spend her whole life in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, nobody wants to see you succeed. Nobody likes to see somebody dream big and all that stuff. She's like, I come to America. Everybody is like that. You guys dream. And so she felt at home in America. So she would, by my estimation, she had American values. So I got along with her like a house on fire. My wife is a foreign-born American. My wife has dreamed about coming to America since the time she was like 11 years old, and very much has American values, love it the most. So I'm not, everybody needs to stay in their home country. I am, everybody needs to, wherever you live, you need to be of that culture. And that seems very reasonable to me. The culture internally is going to change in and of itself over time. Anyway, if people decide they want to invite people in from all over the world, then you're going to get what you're going to get, because it just goes, people will bring their values. That first generation for sure is very unlikely to update and really become sort of one of those people. Their kids will be maybe sort of ish. And then it's like, how much will the culture change depending on how many people you bring in those two generations? It's a great question. And countries are starting to find out, especially if the group that comes over is like, we want to insulate ourselves, we want to pass on our ideology, and then we want to slowly take over the culture. And just so people don't think I think this is an exclusively Muslim problem, this is exactly what I think the Jews did when they went to Israel. Is they played a long game and they understood that we can build a mass of people, become economically and politically strong enough that we get things our way. And so this is exactly why they don't give full voting rights to people that aren't Jewish. They know the exact game that you put yourself at risk when you do that. So yeah. So that is how I see it. Countries need to protect their borders because this is very real, that you can bring so many people in that you end up losing your own culture. And then people need to differentiate between you weren't born here and you don't share my values. So again, America is a melting pot, but it only works if people melt. If they become, everybody's an individual crouton in the salad, then all of a sudden you have diabetes.
I know that this is reductionist. Some people are in the chat like, "Oh, well, this seems like white nationalism. This seems like this. This seems like racism."
Drew,
I know.
I'm gonna fucking yell into a microphone.
That's why I was like,
I have to address it.
I gotta give you the disclaimer. I have to say, I know you told me to like, I gotta call him out, but I know that's not what you meant. But if you can clarify it,
not only is it not what I meant, it's not what I fucking said. I have said over and over and over and over and over and over and over. This is not about race. Jesus Christ. If you map this to skin color, you will be eternally confused. You can have somebody of your skin color that you despise and who despises you, and you can have somebody who is not at all of your ethnicity, and you guys see the world exactly the same. How many Christians do we have in the crowd? Okay, guess what? Jesus was a fucking Jew that grew up in the Middle East. So he was not European, he was Middle fucking Eastern. And so if Christians recognize you're going to have a lot more in common with fucking Jesus than you are going to have with somebody as white as snow who believes the exact opposite. Who was the fucking white guy that joined ISIS? You're not going to get along with that guy like you're going to get along with Jesus, who is Middle Eastern and Jewish. So what is happening? What is happening? I will keep saying it, but it is ridiculous. I don't know if people are in bad faith and they just want to troll or what, but that is wild that you guys can hear me say that over and over and over.
But you know, it's interesting because again, I don't want to pick at anybody, but I do want to get to this point because we had this conversation a couple times and it's interesting. Technicolor Tony said, Tom, saying it's not about race, but then you make it about quote unquote culture in the exact same vein.
Yes. What hold on. Mm-hmm. There are physics to human interaction. Technicolor Tony, let's say names. What exactly do you think happens? I'm happy to address the argument.
Okay.
There's no white culture. Whoever said there's white culture, you're not thinking at all.
Because I approach it a slightly different way. Because I do think, I'll speak for myself. I know people who grew up in areas that I grew up in who don't look like me, but they are very shared. They have a very shared culture with me. We listen to the same music. We like the same food. We go to the same event. I was in a Caribbean restaurant in Austin, and I was out there getting my red snapper with my bun and my plantains, and I seen the whitest woman over there ordering some jerk chicken. Look at that. We have shared values when it comes to food. So I'm projecting on you, but I think that we need to stop saying skin color equals culture, and instead it's culture equals culture. You can be a redneck.
You have to correct me on that?
No, I'm just saying. I'm trying to say it very plainly because I feel like
you're trying to represent my stance plainly.
Yes,
got it?
yeah. You know, there are trailer park people and there are black people from the South that sit on their front porch all day. Y'all are the same people. Y'all just, you know what I mean? So I just feel like we have to stop saying that like culture is white. Cultures aren't color. Black people have a culture. White people have a culture.
But it's not monolithic.
But it's not monolithic, exactly. So I just wanted.
That's why I'm saying there is no white culture. I would say there isn't even black culture. I think we use black culture as a label for a certain type of black culture within America. Mm-hmm. And that's why people are so confused when they look at the stats and they see, hold on a second, what is it? Nigerian immigrants just absolutely smash. I mean, those guys make money. And it's like, everyone's like, wait, what? I thought that black people were just stamped under the boot of racism. What's happening? How are these guys winning so hard? And they're winning so hard because, one, you've got immigrants that are coming over. And so immigrants already are just their own thing because of all the risk taking and blah, blah, blah. But obviously there's something going on in that subculture that makes them more entrepreneurial, that makes them more career oriented. I don't know if it's more family, more education, whatever, but you're going to be able to find things you can point to and be like, that's why this is working. So because I think America has brain rot on race, because we have just been beat to death with this overly simplistic white versus black, which is ridiculous. Exhibit A would be Eminem. Like, where are you going to clock him? For real? You're going to say that he's white culture? You think I have more in common with Eminem than Proof did? What? That's absurd.
Is there, Brutus said, okay, which one of these cultures then is American culture? So define American culture, American values, since people.
So if we're going to go with sort of generic American values, like when I say that somebody is a foreign-born American, I mean somebody that believes in freedom, the divinity of the individual, somebody that believes in capitalism, Do I have to go much deeper than that? Those are going to be like the surface ones that'll get you 80 to 85% of the way there.
Yeah. And then when you have
vaguely Christian.
Yeah. And then when we have certain so in the same here's another one. Okay, Tom, if Japan becomes 80% black, but they kept Japanese culture, would you be okay with it? They bow everywhere. They still make anime. They have
the bad news is I probably wouldn't care because I care about the cultural output, but it really doesn't matter what Tom thinks. That's me saying that I want the certain local coffee shop that I go to retain a certain vibe. It's up to the coffee shop who they want to be. Yeah. So will I still be a Japanophile if it becomes all black, but they keep putting out anime? Yes, I still will be. But will Japan rightly be traumatized? Yes. So don't take what I want out of Japan to be the thing that represents anything even remotely approaching what Japanese people care about.
Copy. I feel like I got everybody's objections. If anybody missed something, not speak now or forever hold your peace. I feel like this is interesting though, because I do see this in the same vein that I see the capitalism versus socialism, where I think having a critique on immigration seems like the wrong stance. Just like,
I mean, I'm on the wrong side of history.
It's the same thing, like, because when we're talking about capitalism, socialism, we're not talking about Mao versus Obama. What we're really talking about is I am struggling right now with inflation and I need help. Why don't you want to help me? And I feel like immigration is the same way, where we're saying because we're being critical of immigration, that doesn't mean that we're saying lock up all the Muslims. And I feel like somewhere people are getting that jump.
Well, so that feels like three different things. So these are all different levels of analysis. So one is if you're trying to compare two people, what are you trying to get at? Like effective policies, what works, what are outcomes? If you then generalize and you say, okay, this is really about this system versus this system, it's not about these specific people. That's also a useful level of analysis to figure out what the philosophy is that people are passing around. And then if you start saying, okay, somebody's proposing, certainly not me, but somebody's proposing to lock up all the Muslims, then you're talking about what actual actions could we take to solve the problem. So you're in sort of problem solution mode. So all of those are worthwhile places that we can debate it. Where you want to see is if, in this case, me, if I'm consistent at all levels of analysis. If I'm consistent at all levels of analysis, then at least I have an internal set of beliefs and values that yield the same outcome. It's consistent. You may deplore it, but it's consistent. And checking anything against its own internal consistency is always first step. Second step is just, what does it output? If it doesn't output anything good, then it doesn't matter that it's internally consistent. It does not yield the outcome, which I can state the exact outcome that I want. Most people cannot. But if you can say, this is the outcome that I want, this is my internal consistency, and this is what it actually yields, and it is steps closer to my end goal, it's like, okay, well, I may still deplore your goal, but at least you know what you want. You're internally consistent and you're moving towards that goal. Again, you may still deplore my goal, but it's all out in the open and now it's very easy to debate. When people are internally inconsistent, then this is just somebody who's probably spouting talking points, or they're confused, or they haven't thought about it enough, or they just don't have the intellect to pull it off, whatever, or all of the above. But the fact that there are different levels of analysis is not problematic.
Yes. That all makes sense to me.
Really what people need to do. So one thing that I think people will find very helpful is, instead of just spending your time debating my points, you want to think about, okay, what are your points? What's your sense of cause and effect? Because if you're building up from cause and effect, then it's like, if we can all agree on where we're trying to get, and you've got a series of cause and effect that leads me there, I will update immediately. All I care about is actually achieving the honorable goal that I'm trying to get to. So I'm never attached to my own things. No matter, I could literally be screaming about something and then 30 seconds later realize, oh yeah, that doesn't work as well as this new idea. I'm going to go with the new idea. And the only thing, regardless of what other people judge me for, the only thing I judge myself for is my willingness to stare nakedly at my inadequacies, to acquire the skills that I need to acquire in order to make progress towards honorable goals. That's it. Not even whether I achieve the honorable goals, whether I'm sincerely pursuing them or not, and then whether I can actually make progress or not.
We've got a super chat from Brutus
Let's
Lugo,
go.
but it is the
Super chat.
question that you did just answer point blank.
I did just-
So I will say it.
Say it out of
But
fairness to him. I mean,
It has been answered. Tom, if Japan becomes 80% black, but they kept Japanese culture, would you be okay with it?
yeah. So I would, just to reiterate the point, I would be, but I wouldn't expect Japan to be cool with that. That is one of those where when you look around, the average person really feels strongly about seeing their own like self in them. This is why people talk about representation matters. And I think they're right about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, people are going to want to look around and see themselves. So I don't begrudge anybody that. That's not my strong impetus, but I get that a lot of people are going to have that. So there's a certain thing that I want from that, I should say, there's a certain thing I get from Japanese culture that makes me self-identify as a Japanophile. If that went away, then I would just stop being a Japanophile and be like, I'm either into this era of Japan or whatever, or I would move on to something else that's more current. But go ahead. You got?
I got one. This might be a better, more pointed one.
Let's go.
America
Yeah.
abandoned socialism.
Yes.
We go full capitalism.
I'm
American values.
love it.
80s, fast cars,
Yep.
smoking white t-shirts.
Yeah. Smoking white t-shirt. Like you talking about the cigarette
yeah,
pack?
Yeah. You know, there we go. But now
That's what you think of when you think of America. It's wild. Okay.
But now we're 80% Arab.
Yeah. Fuck. I literally couldn't care less. I could not care less.
So it's 100% the output of the
Yes.
society system.
Yes. Dude, if we're all going to get behind capitalism and the trade-off is that very few people look like me, but they all have that value set that I believe makes people's lives better. Yes, please.
I got another one. This is from Sunny Delight. What happens if Japan becomes 90% Mexican, but they have black values?
That's wild. So okay,
you guys get
on.
the point now.
But have you seen? Hold on. Look this up right now, Drew. Pull this up immediately. There is, Eric. This one's for you. There is a subculture in Japan that's Chicano. Pull it up.
I don't even know what to look. Okay.
Put in Japanese subculture Chicanos, and it will come up. They do the Crip walk. They dress in all like the 90s Chicano era, like bandanas and khakis.
Cholo?
I don't know if you're going to get
Yeah.
Cholo or Chicano will give you more. Here we go. Let's go. Zoom in. Are they, Japanese as the day is long. Look at that. Now, are they in Japan, though? We got to make sure these are actual Japanese in Japan.
Japanese Cholos.
My psychologist, Japanese Cholos don't exist. It's all in your head. Japanese Cholos. This is amazing. So, yeah, dude, look, okay. So we all know my story of my friend who unfortunately passed away, who identified as black but was Mexican. And he culturally was not wrong. Like the way he thought, everybody that he hung around in, the way he talked, everything from top to bottom was reminiscent of black culture, 1,000%.
And this is really why it like frustrates me with like the whole racism conversation that we have in America a lot of times. Because to your point, everybody would say, I'm like, they have these broad brushes that they paint with black people. And they'd be like, oh no, but Drew's different. Or, oh no, Candace Owens was my friend. But oh no, look how he treated this person. And it's like, that should just tell you that you shouldn't say black people XYZ, white people XYZ, Muslim people XYZ, because you have a person that invalidates that entire thing. So that's why I hate that argument that we keep going in circles about. It's like, oh, well, no, you're the exception. But usually it's that if I'm the exception, then that rule doesn't exist. Like, you know what I mean?
One of the most common mistakes that humans make is a category error. Yeah. So we had to put things in categories to survive. That berry is edible. Yes, that berry is not edible. There's no doubt that there are going to be things where you could eat if you like think about a blowfish, right? You realize, oh, cut it one way, it will kill everybody. Cut it the other way and it's just fine. But those kind of nuanced categories get people killed. So you have to be very careful. And so the human mind just wants to cram things into knowable boxes. I don't have to think about you. I know what you are. And so we do that all the time. That's why people get so triggered by trans issues, because they have an algorithm in their brain that says there are two just like extremely fundamental delineations in the human brain, and that is light and dark, male and female. And if you can't figure those out, like you're going to be in trouble. So we develop very sophisticated eyes, all this stuff. And the amount of our brain that's dedicated to like tracking movement and stuff like that, like it's just wild how much energy we put into that. Anyway, male female obviously is about procreation, and if you get that wrong, you're in trouble. And so when people are confronted with people telling them that that category doesn't exist, they're like, what? Like, it's always going to be jarring. They're not going to be able to understand what people are trying to put forward.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, we'll move on. I think we got that one. All right, let's bring it over to Candace Owens. G is stretching over there. I thought you were signaling me. Okay, shout out to G. He's running a marathon, everybody. So please send your support in the chat. Any tips for marathon
running?
Are
you really?
Yeah.
You're going to run a marathon, not a half marathon.
Oh, okay, half. I wasn't trying to put him on blast.
Wait, is it a half?
It's a half and a full. I'm doing the half Roseville and the full LA.
How much? When's the full LA? Let's go.
Let's go. We out
Gee,
here.
That's real talk.
Any tips in the chat? Help out. Send G out. Pray for his niece.
Make sure you're eating your protein, G, right here. Come on now. Paleo Valley. They got you.
The vanilla one is good too.
It.
That's the one I use. Speaking of which, I hit my weight goal. My titties are still small though, so I'm a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Don't just put on fat, Drew.
No, I feel good.
Yeah?
Yeah, we out here.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm officially 160.
Let's
I've been wanting to be
go.
160 my whole life.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying?
Congrats.
We out here. We getting out.
Respect.
Impact theory.
I like
health challenge. We ain't talk about it because we had some health challenges.
True.
But we
Facts.
care about your health. You know what I mean? That's it. This house was brought to you by a health care company.
Very
so
true.
There you go.
Very true.
All right. Candace Owens. Don't worry about the gag order in the Charlie Kirk case. I plan to violate it on the world's behalf. The things I've discovered this past week are enough to burn the house down. Yes, Charlie was betrayed by everyone. Dun, dun, dun. And then she disappears for 2 weeks. I love Candace. I'm team Candace because I just feel like we need people to fuck people up. I just feel like we need anarchy.
Need people to fuck people up.
We need people to keep them on the toes. Like, I need a Candace Owens to exist in life.
Got you.
So that way other people
You're not worried that she's going full conspiracy.
What is full conspiracy?
Let's define it. It's somebody who can no longer, they don't have an internal map for how to judge whether something is plausible or merely intriguing. And I think that Candace is seeing patterns where they don't exist. She's showing signs. I don't think she is schizophrenic, but she's showing signs of paranoid schizophrenia. Signs, only signs like, hey, tangential, but like it's accelerating. And so I don't know if this is, she's just very good at pattern recognition and she's not keeping it in check. If in the final analysis, we're going to be like, oh my God, Candace was right about everything. That is possible. And I don't want to remove that from the table. Mm-hmm. But while I watch her, I'm like, okay, there's a big difference for me between somebody like Joe Rogan, who enjoys conspiracies, but feels very tethered to reality, and somebody like Alex Jones, who, even though he really does find a lot of this early stuff, it's like the number, if you watch his channel, literally every day is World War III. And everything is a conspiracy, everything. Mm-hmm. And so I'm starting to now, as I think about categorizing people, Candace has sort of marched her way out of the journalist box that I had her in my mind, over into the I see patterns where patterns don't exist conspiracy theory box, where I'm like, I worry that she isn't using an internal rubric with which to anchor herself to say, okay, these things probably aren't true. And we're going to go through a very substantive portion of the interview between Mario Knopfel and Stephen Gardner, where they debunk her claims one by one. And look, Stephen Gardner could be wrong as well, but it shows that she can make a wild claim and produce receipts, but then another person can come along with receipts that counter it. And that's why where I try to put myself when I'm analyzing stuff, and this certainly reflects in how I invest, where it's like, okay, I have a strong belief, but I know better than to trust myself 100%. And so I'm literally trying to hedge my own bets to make sure that I never lose by too much. It also means that I'm going to cap my upside. I'm never going to win by too much. But this is one, let's play a scenario where Michael Saylor, who's making an all-in bet on Bitcoin that I consider to be completely irresponsible. Let's roll the tape forward and say he becomes one of the richest or the richest men in the world. I'll never look at that bet and go, that was a quote unquote sensible bet. I'll look at it and say he was right, and he is reaping all of the rewards, and he has way more confidence in himself and his ability to read the situation than I have, and he has got all the the wealth to show for it. But I'll never think it was sensible, because there's just too many things that could go wrong. Humans can misread the situation. The world can change in ways that were fundamentally unpredictable. And so I don't think it's a wise way to live your life. And so there's something called the survivorship bias where, yeah, we're on the timeline where he happened to pull it off, but I'm also on the timeline where my Pomeranian was loose in the Mulholland Hills for 36 hours with coyotes, and I still managed to get her back. But I've got to imagine if the multiverse is real, basically every other timeline, she became coyote food. So it would not be sensible for me to say, oh, you can just let your Pomeranian go wandering around the Mulholland Hills for 36 hours and they'll be just fine. They won't be. So just
as an entrepreneur, though,
yep,
there is a benefit to being non-sensible sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to roll the dice. Sometimes you have to go against the grain. Sometimes you have to ask questions that shouldn't be asked.
Yeah. And I would say I totally get, like, again, if he pulls it off, you're going to see me laugh, smile, clap. I'll want to get him on the show. I'll want to let him take a victory lap. I'm not going to be throwing stones at him. I'm just saying it's not a sensible thing to do. Now, you'd have to get me to define sensible, and that's all my beliefs and all my value system and all of that. So you've got to take that with a grain of salt. But anyway, I've got that internal metric by which I judge things. And so I make my decisions based on that. It feels like Candace has lost that. She doesn't, or maybe never had, but she doesn't have anything that she comes back to and says, like I say, I know better than to trust myself 100%. Just blanket. So I think I have all the receipts. I still don't trust myself 100%. She trusts herself 1,000%. And I cannot figure out how life has taught anybody that that's the right thing to judge things by.
Yeah. I'm conflicted because I do think just with Alex Jones, like, yes, there's the Alex Jones is right meme, but Sandy Hook got all 1.5 billion and they're going to take the name right to his studio. Like, he still has to kind of deal with him being wrong big in that scenario. So by no means, if Candace is wrong on all this, she deserves her day in court, whatever. If she gets sued, she deserves a payout. Like, she has to walk the plank if that's what really falls out. I am from the nil of, like, Marisha said it in, like, the government lies to us. The CIA is destabilizing institutions all around the world. There are so many times where, like, a corporation has enlisted the CIA to destabilize something and we'll give you a kickback to the government. Everybody gets paid. So to me, like, there's so much political goodwill that came from Charlie Kirk's death. There's so much political benefits that happen from it. Even if it's 1% of me, I do have a certain level of suspicion to how clean it was. Again, we read the text messages live. Hey, my lover, who is also a trans furry who lives down the street. Like, I'm sorry, my dad, who you know is a Trump supporter. Like, there's certain things that just doesn't necessarily pass the sniff test for me.
Now, they're going to cover that in the video. He's got a very plausible argument for what that could be and not be tied to the CIA. So what I'm saying is, I agree. I think being suspicious is very prudent. Mm-hmm. Having an eye towards, okay, one of the possible outcomes here is that this is a conspiracy, mm-hmm. but that you don't just assume, oh, this is obviously the Jews. This is obviously the CIA. Like, it's on the table. It's one of the possible avenues. You want to explore it. You never want to set it aside. But at the same time, you don't want your life to be consumed by, oh, I don't need to know anything else. I just know it's automatically going to be one of these things. I see something very similar happening with Ian Carroll, where, again, it's just there's too much solidity in their worldview. Now, admittedly, when I craft a deep dive, I'm writing from a very specific angle, and I'm saying these are the things that I believe to be true. Mm-hmm. But I know those are constellations. And so I've used this metaphor before. It'll be very familiar to longtime listeners. But for anybody that doesn't know what I mean by that, when you look up at the sky, you really do see stars. True. Mm-hmm. The constellations are made up. The constellations help you navigate. And once you understand, oh, these are made up, but they're useful, then if you start over-indexing on these are so useful that I'm going to forget that they're made up, you run into trouble. And that's how you end up crashing. You have to remind yourself, okay, this is useful, but its utility is going to be limited by the fact that it is made up. And so I want to get closer and closer to truth. And that's ultimately what physics is trying to do, is say, hey, you don't have to steer based on these floating, dots in the sky, you can create something called satellites and GPS. And now we can get way more sophisticated with our navigation. So I feel like these guys are getting stuck because it's so lucrative from a YouTube perspective. They're getting stuck in the constellation of it all instead of realizing those are just approximations. Start drilling down even deeper and really start fact checking and getting to the truth. Don't only pursue things that are juicy, conspiratorial, like there really might be some very mundane, grounded stuff. Okay, with that, I think we should look at this interview unless you have something here you want to read first.
No, I'm going down the rabbit hole. I was trying to find the text message exchange specifically so I can see where to kind of jump in at. Unless you just want to take it from the top of the.
I think so. What we're going to show you guys, let's jump right into the interview. What we're going to show people is that they're going to walk through the individual claims that she's made, and they're going to basically Stephen Gardner's going to essentially refute them all. So this is a resuscitation. Nope. He's going to recite each of her claims and then say what he thinks the take is. So this will be good as a primer for what she believes, as well as showing what possible refutations are. Now, again, he may also be wrong. I just want to show people that there are alternate takes on this stuff.
Copy that. It is 46 minutes.
I know. So
I have the text message one pulled up. They says as far as the text messages go, and he kind of goes into that spiel unless there's a more specific, like,
if you have that one queued up, start at the beginning.
Okay.
And then as we get fatigued, we'll just make sure that we cover that one.
Copy.
And then we can bounce out. But he covers a bunch, and hearing the pattern and the way that he goes through each of them, I think is very useful. And actually, he starts with a good one, which is this sort of physical location.
I'm just going to jump straight to it because I think you've been covering it since early on. And when most creators kind of made all these different assumptions and came up with these theories without actually seeing the place physically.
Can you bump this up to 1.25?
Looking at the place through Google Earth, where Charlie Kirk was speaking at the time he was assassinated, and trying to explain all these different questions that people have, is very different to when you're there in the grounds having a look at those different locations. Can you give us a thought on how that walkthrough went? What were the differences that you saw?
So I just completed my second walkthrough, but you're absolutely right, Mario. I covered this story for almost 2 weeks, based off articles, based on aerial imagery, Google Maps. But once I actually got there, the thing that shocked me the most was the terrain. The Losi building, where we're told Tyler Robinson shot from, is 2 or 3 stories tall. And Charlie is way down in like a pit of an amphitheater. And so he's definitely shooting down at this angle. So as I got there, I had only been there for maybe 10 minutes, and I figured out how to get onto the roof where the shot came from in about 10 seconds. So, but until you understand the terrain, if you're just looking down on Google Earth, it looks really flat because they have these like big red tiles that are sidewalks, but some of those are also walkways of a roof. And so the way that the terrain,
I think this is a big part of what's causing a lot of the takes that people have on this is that they're not actually going there and they're just looking at things on Google Maps. Things look very different. And so being on the ground and reporting from the ground, I think adds a ton of credibility. Now, I don't know if Candace has. It's possible she has. But I think that's a pretty important takeaway here.
It really threw me off until I went there. How close everything is really surprised me. Like you think, oh, he's a football field and a half away. But when you're sitting there, you're like, wait a minute, with my own eyes, I could have seen Tyler Robinson. I could have seen his face. I could have seen the barrel of a gun. But all of the focus and energy and hype was down on Charlie Kirk. And sadly, nobody was looking up. But I just walked it for a second time. While I was there, I got to see the handprint of Tyler Robinson in the dust coming off the roof where he jumps off. There was also a measurement tape there, and you can see what looks like something about 36 to 40 inches long that scrapes that dust on the edge of the building. So until I actually went there, I was relying a lot on articles and Google Maps, and it was totally different in person.
Interesting. So the length that scraped the area where the handprints were, was that the size of the 30-06 rifle that he had?
It appears to be. Now, when we were there 2 days ago, I noticed that there was, the first time that I went, there was actually a yellow tape measure.
This is the first time I heard anybody claim that
and I
there
thought,
might be evidence that he actually did have the gun, because watching him drop down, I didn't see it. I was like, he didn't have a gun.
Gray
with him.
Hughes investigates.
So,
he was able to use his
interesting.
telescoping camera. He said, look, here's the handprints and all of that. And I go, oh my gosh, yes, they're trying to measure if it's the length of a gun, because some
Yeah,
people have
deplorable.
said
They're not
there's
going to
no way
release
he
this
has a
stuff,
gun.
and this
you can't
is
jump off of a
something
building
that
with a
he
gun. And others have
addresses
gone
in this
frame by
interview.
frame, and even though it's blurry
Because
and
there's a
pixelated,
pending
you
case,
can see
they're not
something
going to
very
release that
stiff
footage.
inside of what looks like a dark gray or a black towel. So I personally believe they were trying to measure, did this guy have a gun from his handprint to where that final scrape was, and it does look to be the length of a rifle.
Yeah, so in the video, for anyone that hasn't seen it, there's a video of Tyler Robinson jumping off the roof, and he had something with him, but it was very pixelated, and it was a towel hiding something. No one knew what it was. Some people said it's too small to be a rifle, but it's also very difficult to make that determination because it was very pixelated. And they haven't released, so some people will be like listening to us now, and I'll let you elaborate. They'll be like, yeah, okay, but then if they have the footage showing the rifle or showing Tyler Robinson, you mentioned a camera that was exactly where Tyler Robinson was taking the shot, so they have the footage most likely. Then people are like, okay, why aren't they releasing that footage? People don't understand. There is an ongoing investigation, and you don't release the evidence.
You can
that
skip
will be
through this.
used
We've already talked
in the
about
court
that. Just
proceedings
hit like
while
forward.
the investigation.
Like literally,
There's a
arrow
gentleman
key.
that sneaks in the crime scene and steals a Charlie Kirk hat, and then next thing you know, they're ripping out the grass and everything goes away, right? But if you go to local news channels in Utah, KJazz, KUTV, KSL, others, and you just search Charlie Kirk crime scene, there's hundreds of photos. This place was crawling with police, crawling
so
with
you can skip this
investigators.
one as
People
well.
in ask the guy
Get out, because I haven't seen the videos you've made before that about Charlie Kirk. I've seen that last one, and I've glimpsed a few before that. So the way I assume things went in your mind, and I think most people went through that process, is that you had these questions. You know, some people jump to conclusions before even asking the questions. They start with the conclusion and go back. And we'll go through some of those and kind of discuss them and maybe fact check a few of them. But what were some of the questions you had early on? Things you did not understood, or maybe you saw a video on YouTube or some expert talking about the rifle being disassembled or the gunshot wound being an exit wound. What were some of those questions? And after this investigation, these interviews you've done on this, what was your conclusion at the end?
Okay, great question. So in the beginning, I was just like everyone else. I was waiting to hear what would come out from the FBI, news stories, leaks in the media. I was one of the very first people to go live about the Charlie Kirk shooting. I had just come off of an interview with Josh Hammer, who is at the center of all the Candace Owens drama. So I was literally on my podcast with him while Charlie Kirk is being shot. I get off of that. I get a text message from my family saying, Charlie Kirk's been shot in the neck. I think he might be dead. And I'm like, no, his Twitter shows him throwing hats. He's fine. And then all of a sudden, boom, breaking news. And so I decide, okay, I'm going to go live. During that live, I'm trying not to throw up. I'm watching this footage over and over again. And I was just very, very upset. And so I was like, okay, I don't usually cover crime stories. I'm pretty much focused on military, government, Donald Trump, the country of America. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to see what starts to come out. And so I just started, sharing what was coming out. And then I didn't really know whether I could trust the FBI because of JFK and MLK and RFK and January 6th and, just a lot of stories.
Files.
Yeah, the Epstein files. Where the heck are those, right? So a lot of these are like brewing in the back of my mind, but I'm like, okay, sadly, our family has been through a murder trial. And so I just had to keep reminding myself that regardless of...
Forever Wonderful said, Tom is acting like this guy is a source of truth. My stance is exactly the opposite. What I'm saying is we don't know what the truth is yet. And what I found interesting about this is that he's got a counterpoint to all of Candace's claims, maybe not all of, but to many of the biggest, most popular ones. And I found it very interesting that they sound plausible as well. I'm not saying he's right and Candace is wrong. In fact, a few minutes ago, I said he could also be wrong. I think people are right to question this stuff. I think people are right to think for themselves. I don't think anybody should just be assuming that anybody has put together the truth. But one thing that I have found extraordinarily useful in my life is once I have a belief about something, say Marxism, communism, the economy, inflation, all that, I want to go find people that are like, no, this is all good. And I want to hear what they have to say. I want to understand what the argument is on the other side. Like I can give you an argument for why modern monetary theory is the best thing ever. I can make that argument sound extremely compelling. And then I can tell you why I fall on the side that they're wrong. If you can't argue the other person's side, you don't understand very much of it. So of the situation as a whole. I think a lot of times people build their entire frame of reference because they go down one path with one person that they trust. They build a worldview. They just parrot back what that person is telling them, but they're not actually building up from cause and effect. And so the number of times where I'll have something in my head where I'm like, well, I mean, how do you address that? There's no way it could be anything but that. And then somebody gives you another argument like, oh, damn, I didn't even know about that fact, or I never thought about it that way or whatever. So that's happened to me so many times. It's what's known as seeking disconfirming evidence. So you don't want to put yourself in the echo chamber where you're just hearing the thing you want to hear all day. You want to find the people that say the exact opposite thing that you believe. Look, I'm as comforted by hearing people who believe what I believe as anybody else. But if you force yourself to go outside of that, you can really begin to make your worldview useful. And this is why I really try to stress for people that skills have utility. So they let you do something in the real world that other people can't do. And so the person that can identify cause and effect truth the fastest it's like getting a skill inside of a video game. You become the most powerful person around because you can actually predict the outcome of your actions, which means that you can get where you want to go faster than anybody else. So this is why I think Elon is right to be obsessed with getting AI to be maximally truth-seeking. You want to find what is true, thinking up from first principles, thinking of the world through the lens of physics. Like once you get there, you're not going to be as easily bamboozled. So I'm bringing this stuff to you guys as a counterpoint. So anyway, let's keep chugging.
Of whether you believe the FBI or you don't believe them, a murder trial, they are going to go through this with a fine-tooth comb. The burden is going to be on proving that Tyler Robinson is guilty, not that he's innocent. They're going to have experts from everything from his cell phone to photos to the chats to his geolocation. So I know that the FBI is not going to be able to get away with much because there's a living human that has to go through a murder trial. So for me, I was like, okay, that leads me to just say, okay, I'm going to not fully trust them, but I'm going to try to build out this narrative myself. So as stuff starts to come out, I just start building ideas of what I think has happened.
Okay, you skip this part.
I start eliminating and putting piece autopsy investigator on. So I talk to an investigator. I'm going to get a forensic expert on. I'm going to get an autopsy expert.
Fast forward.
Probably no bullet hole. And I go, okay, that confirms what I believed, that he wasn't shot from behind. There's him. And then Candace Owens comes out and says, I was able to watch the video. There's no blood. There's no bullet hole. And I go, okay, that confirms what I believed, that he wasn't shot from behind. Then that week, every video going viral is him being shot from behind. I was able to debunk most of those pretty quickly based on location, based on that data I shared, and talking with Turning Point USA. Then I started just looking at different aspects of the crime. Okay, are there any other areas where you could have shot Charlie Kirk from? Pretty much determined it was just that location. What kind of gun could it be? Is it the guy, tugging at his shirt and it's a palm gun? No, it's too loud. It's too much force from the front. Is there a wound from behind? Is this an exit wound or an entrance wound? And then I started reaching out to those experts. So
I will say
just started eliminating
the
stuff
gunshot not blowing out of the back of his neck is the most shocking.
He doesn't address that.
He does. I mean, he's probably in the middle of it right now. But the punchline from him and from the coroner or whoever did the autopsy was just it hit his bone and stopped. So they talk about, hopefully we didn't skip past it, but they talk about how if a cartridge is damaged or old, that the bullet may not be traveling as fast as it normally would. And so might not be going as forcefully, but I call it concavity, I think, that the bullet creates this reverse pressure. And so it blows out the chest cavity. And I guess that also just demolished his heart, which is part of what killed him. So if it's going that fast, I'm still surprised. If it's going fast enough to do that, it enters the neck and still blows out the heart, that sounds like it's going pretty fast to me. They also say that's why, because the big thing not enough people are talking about for me is that his shirt puffs up right before he gets hit. And so what they're saying is they just keep, I believe the word they keep using is concavity, that's essentially what I'm imagining to be the air moving around it as the bullet is coming towards him. And so the disturbance in the air, I guess, hits him before the bullet actually hits him. That's at least how I'm interpreting that. All right. You want to jump to the one that we had saved up?
The text part, yeah.
Roofs would look like sidewalks. All sidewalks would look like the same, elevation. So as far as the text messages go, I have mixed feelings about those because I believe that they're real, but I think they also could have been pre-planned in order to make Lance Twigg look innocent. Oh, I had no idea that my lover was going to go kill this guy. I'm just as shocked as the rest of the world, right? So I believe they're real. And the forensic expert I talked to, He said, Stephen, most people don't realize this, but Tyler Robinson's cell phone is going to be the second most important piece of evidence next to the gun itself. And I was like, really? And he said, they're going to be able to track whether he went on the week before. They're going to track every movement.
This all
second by
feels very
second
believable
of
to
him
me.
coming onto
That
campus,
was the posit.
getting on
So
the roof.
the one thing you and I were both like, yo, there is something fishy here. Like nobody writes like this. But if you're trying to, like, if you've already talked about it, you know that your boyfriend knows exactly what your plans were, but you need a way, you know they're going to look through your phone and you need a way to clear them, then you might like overstate everything just to make sure that there's no possible lack of clarity. And so that's where you get sort of the ridiculous, like it's extremely detailed, saying things that like obviously that person would know. You're talking as if the two of you have no context. I think that's because they know the people reading the text messages won't have any context, or it's at least a very
he did that to
plausible
protect
read.
his lover.
Yeah, it's a very plausible read that, because he's like, he goes in Discord and essentially admits to the crime. So it's like, this is not somebody who was like, oh, I'm definitely going to get away with this. So he turned himself in. So yeah, it feels more and more like this was somebody who did it. They were prepared to be a martyr, and they wanted to make sure that nobody else got in trouble for this. That seems like a very plausible read. I don't know. I haven't seen every conceivable angle, so I'm not going to say, oh, that's definitely what happened. Yeah. But that seems very plausible.
Cool. I feel like I got it.
Yeah.
You want to keep going?
No, unless you saw something in chat where people are hung up on something.
The aluminum foil hats are very out right now. They're calling this just another dude on the internet talking. So I understand the importance of having conflicting arguments. So,
but here's my thing. What I don't understand is he's laying out his logic. So rather than dismiss the arguments by saying this, he's just another guy on the internet, show me how the things that he's saying don't make sense. Because if there's a breakdown in the logic, fair enough. So we're reading the text messages from Tyler, and it's like something definitely does not feel right. You and I both in real time were like, this is weird. There's something off. So first conclusion, we're being lied to. They're telling us the wrong story. Now, I admittedly went to, God, could it be that the government is involved in this? Like, that seems wild, but okay, maybe. But when I hear another plausible explanation, I'm like, oh, that's also very plausible. And if I'm honest, is Occam's razor. It's the most simple answer and therefore is the most likely to be true. So it's like, if I had to put a front runner of, I need an answer for why those texts don't feel right. Now I have an answer that fits Occam's razor better, does not require there to be some big conspiracy, really can be. Because the one thing I always thought was weird is if this kid didn't do it, like on the perp walk, everything, he's going to be screaming, I didn't do it. Like, this is crazy. Doesn't do any of that. So I've always thought it was weird that if this is a grand conspiracy, why he's not saying anything, why his lover's not saying anything. Like, nobody from his camp, as far as I can tell, is saying this guy's innocent. Nobody, not him, not anybody else. And so I'm like, okay, like, how do they get him to take the fall? Is he like seriously mentally ill? So none of that stuff started coming out. So I'm like, okay, what's the Occam's razor here? So watching that interview, I was like, oh, this guy puts together things. I didn't know that they found like scrape marks that potentially match a weapon being behind him. When he jumped down, I didn't notice the gray towel, but people are saying, no, if you really freeze frame it, you can see that there's like a gray towel behind him that since he at least claimed that the gun was wrapped in a towel, and I believe the authorities have confirmed that they found it in a towel, then okay, it does seem to be a thing that could potentially be a towel, and they see scrape marks that this guy at least is saying he saw with his own eyes, that, okay, it's even got a ruler next to it or a tape measure, so you can see how long the scrape is, so it's potential, certainly not definitive at this point. But it gives you the ability to think through the arguments, again, just from first principles. Like, could this be plausible? If it can be plausible, then how exactly are we ruling it out? So I'm not saying that this isn't a conspiracy. I'm just saying there are other plausible arguments that are being put forward, and it's a little premature to leap to, 100% because Charlie Kirk said that he's going to stop being pro-Israel, that he was killed by the Jews. Like, that's where I'm like, it's a pretty fast leap.
Copy that. I'm going to jump over to Seth on X, because Seth on X is vehemently opposed against you saying that was not Candace's claims and things like that. I think from his perspective, he sent me a couple things. He said that
Shout out to X, by the way.
Yeah, shout out to our X followers. I try to jump around. X is the one thing that I don't have like pulled up immediately, so it takes me a while to respond. Some guy was like, Drew, this is actually you. Stand up and wave your hand. This is me waving my hand. I'm a little bit late, but yes. Seth was saying that, yes, although you can go there and see, yes, I can see him from there, it's still a 10% angle. So what he's, I guess, if I can proofread, like speed run what Seth on X is saying, is that while, yes, this video that we just shared showed that, yeah, this is a flat earth, but he's leaving the part out that says, yes, but it's a 10% angle. And Candace wasn't just saying every conspiracy is true, let me go run with it. She was very empathetic at the beginning. Then the sentiment turned toward her. Then she started doing her independent research. Then TPUSA said she was lying. Then she released a text message and they said, well, she's kind of lying, but not all the way lying. And so that's why she then kind of went nuclear. So
Right.
he's just saying it's a mischaracterization to just say, like, from day one, she was like, the Jews got him. Like, it was a build up
Did
to
it
that.
feel to you like that's what I was saying? Because that's not my position on Candace.
I just want to communicate that because I feel like similar with the American culture thing. A lot of people say Tom didn't say this one specific sentence, so he must think all these other things that I'm assuming are
fair.
true.
At least they're giving me a chance to correct my position.
Yeah.
So here is my position on the assassination of Charlie Kirk in the fewest number of words possible. I don't know what happened yet. The odds that it's a grand conspiracy are low, but not zero. All of this stuff needs to be investigated. They're going to put this kid on trial. So we're going to see all of this stuff come out. The fact that this kid hasn't cried foul and said, no, I didn't do this, this is all a conspiracy, tells me that the odds of it being some like variant of exactly as it seems is probably pretty high. But I don't have 100% confidence on that read. It's entirely possible he's an asset, been promised something, whatever, and that later he will start squawking. But that's how I'm mapping this now. This is probably pretty close to the straight ahead narrative that we think it is. And everything else is worth investigating. Certainly sets a different context, like the disagreement, him saying that he is going to move away from the pro-Israel position. All of that stuff matters and is worth looking at. But yeah, my gut instinct right now is that this is going to be not exactly as portrayed, but it'll probably be pretty close.
And then I'm getting something in the chat where David Anates or Nate said, Tom, he did not confess. He claims he did not do it. You're not looking
No,
at
I didn't say he confessed. See, so
But
well, hold
to-
on.
to
What I
bring up
said
that
was
with
he
the purple-
basically confessed in. Well, hold on, because I did say he basically confessed in Discord. So if they're saying no, when you read the Discord messages, he doesn't confess. The text messages 100% is a confession. From where I'm sitting, I have read them myself multiple times. That is somebody saying I did it. In fact, I think he literally says, "Did you do it?" And he goes, "Yes, I did. I'm sorry, my love." So as far as I can tell, unless he says those text messages are not real, this kid has already confessed from where I'm sitting. So the fact that he hasn't shouted saying, I'm a patsy, like, dude, unless you put a muzzle on me, if I were being like, this is just wholesale made up, I didn't do it, and you're arresting me for this, at the top of my lungs, I would be screaming, I didn't do this. And so I have a mental map. There's no universe in which a kid who is completely innocent is just like, whoa, this is crazy. I can't believe this is happening. There's no way. He's going to be yelling from those aren't my text messages. Like, I haven't been able to see my attorney. Like, he's going to be making noise.
But
so
like, where would he make the noise if he's locked up?
To your attorney in the perp walk. Like, he did not get muzzled, right? This guy has been moved. I assure you, I have a base assumption that he has been transported, that there has been journalists present, that if journalists were unable to talk to his lawyer, they would be making all the noise in the known universe. If he wasn't able to get to his lawyer, we would know about it by now. Like, there's base assumptions. I have not investigated that. It's entirely possible that none of those statements are true. But let's assume that they are true, because I have no reason to believe that they're not. That is obvious due process, that this kid will have access to a lawyer basically whenever he wants it. In fact, I know he has a lawyer because the county that this is happening in is getting in trouble because they're spending more on his defense than they spent on some other crimes, and people are calling foul about that. So, okay, I take it back. I know he has an attorney. And so If that attorney is going to this kid and the kid is not telling the attorney, you need to immediately tell people that I am innocent, that I believe I'm innocent. I did not do this. I have nothing to do with it. The fact that you're not getting that, because the gag order was just put on recently. So yeah, this kid is letting people believe that he did it and that the text messages are real. And therefore, my base assumption right now is this is going to be some flavor that's pretty close to what it looks like.
It's because Netanyahu seen him at the perp walk and did this to him.
Yeah, it's possible.
And then he was just like,
listen, it is possible that they're like, you're going to, but this is what I'm saying. You can't trust yourself too much. So even though my gut instinct is this is how it's going to play out, the reality is I have to accept that it's possible that they're blackmailing him, saying they're going to do something to his family, that they have something over him where he's like, I'm much better off going to prison or even letting myself be killed than let this play out. I know a kid, sweetest fucking kid in the world, and he, his mother went bankrupt fighting an attempted murder charge on him. He knew who did it, but he said, if I rat out, then they'll kill my family. And so, and this is obviously a kid from back at Quest, grew up in the hood, and had every reason to believe they, no, for real, they really will kill my family. And so I was like, damn, like that is very impressive that you were, he was like, if I can't beat it in court, then I'm going to go to jail. I am not going to say who did it. And I was like, damn. So there are people that clearly have the fortitude to protect their family. So it's possible.
We shall see. I see we got a couple super chats going in. We're going to jump to this one more topic and then we'll cover that. So we're coming right back. But thank you, Peace Logic and Marusha. We are coming for you guys for the super chats. Palmer Luckey has some very interesting health advice. So we were just talking about, you know, G's running a marathon. I had a fitness goal recently. Palmer Luckey has the alpha for you guys if you want to get right in 2025.
This is wild.
I'm really afraid that nicotine might be really, really good. You know, that you've probably seen this theory, right? Like that, like basically America smoked its way to being the dominant hyperpower. It kept people focused. It kept people fit. It's an appetite suppressant. There's this really interesting health trade-off theory that I'm not saying I buy into it fully yet. So for people who are watching and shouting and screaming, I don't buy into it fully yet, but I'm becoming more and more convinced that the health benefits of not smoking have not been properly traded against the health problems caused by the resulting eating, not just in terms of appetite suppressant, but also just people filling cravings and filling the need for ritual, you know, ritualistic.
Well, I would tell you out of experience
with other things that are worse for you. I think the crazy version of this is we'd all be better off with lung cancer eventually, but fit until then. And it could be that smoking gets you there. So
pause it for a sec. There's two levels to analyze this video at. One is God bless Palmer Luckey and people like him for being willing to go, hey, no, let's really rethink this. Maybe we are better off with lung cancer right up, you know, till the last minute, as long as you stay fit until then. I love it. Look at things from the strangest angles. Fantastic. Then the other is from the like just health perspective of it all. Drew, can I make an obvious statement?
What's the obvious statement?
The other option, other than smoking and getting lung cancer, is don't eat bad food. Like, you don't have to be fat, by the way. Like, it's not like Palmer, who, God bless him, truly, I think he is brilliant. And I am so glad that he's on Team America. This guy is amazing. But the fact that he carries more fat around than I is not accidental or luck-based. It is entirely what we each choose to chew and swallow. So there is a way to get through life where you don't have to get lung cancer to be healthy. Now, having said that, I fucked with nicotine for a minute, and
you were on it.
It's real. It's real. So the only reason I stopped is it hurt my hand. So sugar, I think it's just the sugar in the gum, which is the way that I was getting it. So I've really, in the back of my mind, I want to find a method that I can get the nicotine without the sugar. Because boy, oh boy, that is a drug you feel. That's not like do I notice? I was like, yo, this is rad. I was timing it for like when we went live.
We can tell.
Oh, dude, I would love to get back on it. So somebody's saying Zyn. If Zyn, do you have to is it a pouch?
Because that sounds disgusting.
But if it's something that has no sugar and I can get the nicotine, I will try it in a heartbeat. A heartbeat.
Yeah, this definitely reminds me of the we used to call it in college the weed diet, where there's people who would like smoke a bunch and they'll smoke themselves out, and then they'll kind of be like sunken in and hollow and lose a bunch of weight.
That's wild.
And it's like,
dude, weed makes me want to eat and eat.
Yeah, but I feel like there's like you either overeat when you like smoke and then you get the munchies, and then I'm a chronic smoker and I smoke all the time, to hit, like Lucky's point, that like after a while you just kind of hollow yourself out.
Well, he's talking about nicotine. So nicotine specifically is an appetite suppressant and may have nutrition partitioning things about it where it gets your body to process the nutrients in a different way. I don't know. I heard that years ago. I never looked into it, but I remember thinking, ooh, that's interesting. But I don't know if it functions purely on an appetite suppressant or if it actually does make your body respond to the nutrients in a different way. I don't know.
I do think that there is something to different people react to different substances. Famously, like Lil Wayne used to smoke weed, drank lean, recorded like 6 mixtapes in one summer.
That's wild.
And then he, so much so that like Juice WRLD, Future, other people saw that and were like, oh, I need to get like Lil Wayne and start doing that.
Right.
And he kind of created all these people with like substance abuses. Like Russ talked about it, where it was like, I was smoking thinking I had to be like Lil Wayne, but then I couldn't handle it, so I was just strung out all the time. So it's definitely to each their own. Everybody has their different
yeah,
lines,
I think
but
people have to be careful. So my wife has a friend that can smoke 5 joints in a day, like pure weed joints. And I'm like, that is wild. You have built your body's tolerance up at that point.
Yeah.
And I admittedly am very nervous about long-term health consequences. And like, if you haven't seen the Charlie Sheen documentary, it is fascinating because in that, God, who was it? Spikowski. Oh God, what's his name? Married Madonna. What? Yes, Sean Penn. Thank you. Sean Penn was like, dude, most people do cocaine and they want to have sex, but they can't have sex because literally physically they can't get an erection. And he was like, Charlie Sheen does not have that problem. He was like, I think Charlie Sheen is built different. I think Charlie Sheen can do a lot of drugs that other people cannot do. It affects him in a different way. There's supposedly some percentage of the population that when they drink alcohol, it wakes them up. And those are the guys that party all night. Alcohol puts me to sleep. So if I have a bunch of alcohol, I'm just going to be laid out, man. So I don't have the pull to drink because it's just going to make me tired. So I think people have to be very careful mapping to someone like Lil Wayne, who might be in a situation where they just metabolize the chemicals very differently or have an ability to function that is way different than the next person. So yeah, if you're trying to sip lean and smoke weed like him or like the way Snoop Dogg smokes, I don't know, man.
Yellow Knight was like smoking was the OG Ozempic back in the day.
Yeah. Facts. Dude, I know so many people back in like 80s and 90s who were terrified to stop smoking because people would just balloon when they stopped.
And Gary said he's high right now. So, hey.
There you go, Gary.
There it is. You could be playing video games.
5 p.m. somewhere. It's 5 p.m. somewhere.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
It's wild.
I feel like you've been pretty straight edge. Like now
Yeah, I was terrified of drugs and alcohol as a kid because there were, in my immediate family, everybody was pretty straight edge. I only saw my parents drink once my entire childhood, to the point where they were tipsy. Like they would have a beer at a barbecue or whatever, but never anything.
No, I'm with you.
But my aunts and uncles and other extended family members were alcoholics, like falling over themselves, saying inappropriate things, like totally wild. I'm pretty sure some of them have had opiate addictions, missing teeth. Like you'd be sitting there talking to them and their eyes are closing. Like, so as a kid, I was like, yeah, you guys, I'm not exactly impressed by the way you act when you're drunk. And so I didn't understand that you could still drink and be in control of yourself. So I just put it off for years and years and years. And I didn't have I'd had sips, but I'd never had like, I am drinking like a full bottle of something or glass of something until I was 26. And my wife basically had to cajole me into drinking for the first time. And then when I drank, I was like, I am suppressing the urge to dance on a table. This is awesome. But I have rules in my life. So I'm like, I don't have an addictive personality, first of all, and then I have insane discipline.
Yeah.
So I was like, cool, I'll do this every now and then as a way to celebrate something with you But yeah, this is not a thing that I'm going to do on the regular or anything like that. So yeah, I've always been pretty buttoned up.
Interesting. I know there was the psychedelic like awakening over like 2020 and things like that, and people were talking about different people taking psychedelics. And I forgot. I was trying to search the article. I couldn't find it, but one of the tech bros was talking about how they raised a bunch of money, went to the desert, took
Psilocybin?
Not psilocybin.
Acid.
No, not acid. The ayahuasca.
There we go. Eric, man,
Eric is
come
on
on.
it. Let's go, Eric.
Today, this man.
Took ayahuasca, went on a crazy trip, came back home, quit the company, divorced his wife, moved to like Bali and just like changed his life. And everybody's like, yeah, he was so happy, but like he ended up broke. So it's like, there are these things of like, it opens up certain things in your mind, and everybody was like praising that. But to your point, everybody's wired differently. So where we thought he would come back with a new product launch and do what Steve Jobs did off of acid and be a design god, he came back, was like, yeah, fuck all this, quit everything, and like left. So it's interesting how be very cognizant of how your psychology works when you try these different
drugs. No joke. Some people, like, if you have any sort of history with schizophrenia, you should not smoke weed. Like the number of people that can have a schizoid break, I'm sure it's a small percentage, but bro, I would not want to fuck with that. And then the number of people that say they did acid and they permanently have like visual hallucinations, no thanks. It just doesn't seem like it's worth the risk. I've been chronically tempted to try MDMA.
Molly?
Yeah, because with my wife, that sounds like a lot of fun. My wife really wants to do it in a clinical setting, which I have a lot less interest in, but she really wants to do that, like for her own like journey, to see if I'll let her speak to it. But she's got pretty interesting ideas about how it might help her. I tried microdosing of psilocybin and found it was just like getting tipsy. I tried micro-ish dosing, ketamine and oxytocin, I think. And again, it just felt like I was getting drunk. So I'm like, none of these things are opening up some other dimension. And look, I get it. Microdosing is very different than macrodosing. And I'm sure if I ever had the courage to macrodose psilocybin 5 grams or whatever, it would be a transformative experience. But that sounds absolutely god-awful to me. And I love my life and don't feel like I'm stuck on anything. So yeah, I could see like if I had PTSD or something like that, I would 1,000% do it. I would probably even do Ibogaine if I had PTSD. From what I hear, that is a miserable experience. That is just your ducks are in a row on the other side of that. So I'm fascinated by that stuff. Drugs are obviously real and they have a tremendous impact, but there's risk.
Everybody, please do your own research. We're not endorsing anything like that. Femboy dropped Terrence McKenna, who's like the ultimate shaman of psilocybin. He was kind of who helped me kind of understand my journey, so that was cool. I did heroic dose of psilocybin. I did acid. I did a gamut, Molly, MDMA, ecstasy, weed. I think that's everything.
What was the most memorable part? Let's go.
I feel like
I love you did it in Colombia. When in Colombia?
Yeah, that's the only time I'm doing it. Literally, that's another story. I don't want to get people in trouble, but yes, yeah.
What was the most memorable part of the heroic dose?
I broke time. I saw myself doing something in the future, but also in the past, and then I was like, wait, like that's not real. And then I was like waving it off like this, and my hand almost looked like a claw, and that's I was just like. And in that moment, my takeaway was like, oh, like your mind, what you see isn't necessarily what's in front of you.
Right.
And I know we kind of extrapolate that as like we're looking at like what you're looking at is not always what you see. Like different people have different perspectives. And I think the opening thing to me was like my feelings aren't always fact. My feelings aren't facts. My mind isn't always giving me the most honest representation. My perspective can change a lot. And that was when I started to kind of say like, okay, I'm looking at Andrew as a person versus this is my world. Like I kind of did like a 3. It's like Minecraft when you hit the up button, you go like first person, third person. So I feel like that's the first time I went third person in life. And then I kind of zoomed back in. And I think that was just the first time I kind of broke out of my traditional pattern of thinking, which was interesting.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. But again, do your own research, talk to your doctors, disclaimer, it's not Tom's fault. I got a kid to raise, please don't sue us. All right, we got some super chats.
Let's go.
We do.
Let's do it.
First up from Marusha Dark, what are some ways to bounce back from periods when I can't even bring myself to believe the only belief that matters? How to reframe feelings of hopelessness when all evidence seems to be pointing in that direction?
Okay, this is a phenomenal question. So the key thing there is you want to remember where you're trying to get to. So what I hear in your question is I want to get on the other side of the depression or the feeling of hopelessness. And so now we're just going to do things because they work. This is why I'm always trying to get people to understand you're having a biological experience. So to trail on the tail of Drew's comment about, oh, I can't always trust the things that my mind is showing me, that works both ways. So you can tell your mind what to see. You can say, oh, no, life can always get better. And just by saying it, you're starting to hardwire things in your brain. So you become what you repeat. If you repeat all the negativity, then you're going to believe it. If you repeat the positive things, then that's going to become real too, especially, and again, remember, I'm talking mechanistically. Your brain will hardwire whatever you repeat. It does not matter if you believe it. If you keep saying it over and over and over and over and over, your brain really will get confused at some point because you've just said it so many times. Same is true for negative things as positive things. So you're going to do it not because you believe that it's real. You're going to do it just because mechanistically that's how it works. So repeat the positive thing over and over and over and over and over and over. And then if you can embody the way that you want to feel, like actually put your shoulders back, stand up straight. Oh my God, life is amazing. And in the beginning, you're going to feel like an actor. Doesn't matter. If you keep acting and you keep repeating it over and over and over, then the way that you feel when you say it, even though it starts fake, it becomes real because your brain is trying to conserve calories, and it's going to hardwire that through a process called myelination, and it just makes it easier. The easiest thing for you to do is wake up and be like, oh my God, life is awesome, because you've repeated it so many times. So the great irony is nothing needs to change in your life other than what you repeat. And so just put that on loop. So what I always tell myself is I can't stop myself from having the first negative thought, but I can stop myself from repeating it. So don't allow yourself, via a rule, do not allow yourself to repeat negative things.
Now from Peace Logic, they sent 3 parts, $20 each. So thank you for that.
Hey, shout out to
Damn.
Peace Logic. Thank you for that.
Damn.
Part 1. ZTF member here. You said school entry for kids' critical thinking is great. Like Apple's discounts got kids hooked on Macs. Free pro AI with logical reasoning curriculum for schools is scalable to teach truth seeking. 2 of 2. My friend Larry Sharp, running for New York governor, was on Joe Rogan's show. You two share like minds. His platforms can push this AI curriculum into schools. Your support could help him win and bridge AI's truth gap.
Let's drop me a Slack link to whoever that is.
Larry
He's on
Sharp.
Rogan. That's certainly credibility.
And the final one on there was, and shout out to Delia and your whole staff.
Let's go.
Larry Sharp is a big part of why I made it to ZTF. He changed my life and got me on keto, which brought me out of my 4-year depression when I lost my entire family.
Whoa. Jesus. Talk about a fucking nuclear bomb there at the end. Brother, first of all, I am sorry to hear that. That is absolutely devastating. Shout out to Larry Sharp. If anybody that can help somebody like that, I'm here for that. And yeah, Delia definitely deserves a ton of credit for all the work that she puts into ZTF. It is wild. And then the very first thing, I felt like there was a statement to make. What was the very first
AI
one?
in schools.
Oh, yeah. I don't plan to pursue it just because that's not my passion, but I hope that somebody does because that is certainly going to be transformative for sure. Transformative.
Cool. That's all we got.
Nice.
Awesome. Thank you for those, man.
No, yeah, really appreciate it. And it's interesting seeing like the whole biological experience thing because I was having like a tough couple days, and then I went to like boxing class and I punched something really hard, and
Let's
it
go.
felt awesome.
100%.
It's like sometimes you just gotta like literally just shake yourself up, and then like
not sometimes, 100% of the time.
Yeah, neurons start reconnecting. I don't know, like it definitely helps to kind of change your physiology to change your psychology.
Yeah, when Huberman came on the scene and said, if you want to reprogram your brain, all you have to do is move your eyes side to side. I was like, this is exactly what I've been trying to tell people. You're trapped in your body. Everything comes down to your biology. There are very simple things you can do from how you move to what you eat to apparently how you move your eyes that are going to change your neurochemistry. That's why if somebody came to me, dude, and they were like really stuck in depression and I could kidnap them and get them to do whatever the hell I wanted, I'd get them working out, and I would get them eating like clean. Dude, in 90 days, that person is going to be a different human being. When you, especially if it's a guy or a girl, doesn't matter. A guy, I'm going to make him strong. A woman, I'm going to make her hot. And then it's just like, it's game over. Like, they will feel so different. People can have as much trouble with that as they want, but this is the algorithms running in our brains. So
shout out to the Super Blue in the chat. Also, shout out to the Discord community. I be in there arguing with y'all. I love y'all over there. Join the Discord. He just kind of dropped this on our radar. Children among victims in Russian strikes hours after Trump-Putin talks stalled.
Oh.
So there was supposed to be a Trump-Putin summit. We were going to cover it. Then
so wait,
it disappeared.
They gave Ukraine like some long-distance weapons, and they're striking into Russia? Or is this like border towns? Or is this...
No, Russia striked Ukraine.
Children among victims in Russian strikes.
Yeah,
oh.
yeah.
That's interesting. I just realized that I wanted Ukraine to be hitting Russia back. Interesting. Okay.
So there's at least 7 people killed, 2 of them children. After Ukraine's second biggest city, Kharkiv, there was a kindergarten that was hitting down there. Children were among the 27 wounded on top of the 7 killed.
Yeah. What's interesting is this has been going on the whole time. We've just all been so on Israel-Palestine that nobody has paid attention to this, but none of this has stopped, just for the record.
It's sad that we're taking victory laps in the Middle East, thinking like we're close to it, we're almost there, but it seems like this Ukraine-Russia is just ongoing. It seems like, thoughts and prayers to the victims. Hopefully, we can get a peace deal going. At this point, I don't even know what political pressure we need anymore because Europe, all of the EU is pushing for a ceasefire. America was pushing for a ceasefire, and Putin is like, "I'm good."
Yeah,
drone him. So.
Here's the thing. This is how this is going to play out. They're never going to have talks. Putin tells Trump what he wants to hear. The reality is that it's some blend, I think, of Putin told NATO, don't keep coming closer. They kept coming closer. He does not trust them. He smells weakness from America. Economically, we are. So I certainly understand that. He's got a thriving relationship with China. China's on the upswing. So he's like, well, I'm going to keep rocking with these guys. And he will push it until he meets enough force to stop. And he, I think, also just wants additional territory. I think he wants to reunite the USSR. So you put all that together, he's just going to keep pushing until he meets sufficient force. So sufficient force will be an armed Europe that's willing to give Ukraine weapons, America that's willing to give Ukraine weapons, the green light to strike inside of Russia instead of like border towns. But like if they start striking Moscow, this is going to be a different game. Now it's going to be escalatory, and this is exactly how you end up properly in World War III. But you're going to march towards that. And then the only thing I can't foresee is if it starts getting serious and it's like, okay, they start doing sort of warning launches with missiles that Russia knows could reach Moscow, and they start hitting other places to be like, hey, for real, don't make us do it. And then he'll escalate really hard. And then the international community might get enough where everybody's outraged and they just come in and say, hey, you're starting to lose your own people because we're now hitting you. So you're putting yourself in a weaker and weaker position, especially if China is stressed economically, the way some people want us to believe. If Xi Jinping is actually struggling to maintain power, which I don't know is true, but it's certainly rumors are starting to come out, could be pure propaganda. But if that ends up being true, if Putin starts being weakened, that's the only like part of this where it's possible there's enough outcry, there's enough weakness that then they come to the negotiating table. But I think we can completely rule out that Putin is like, no, I really want an end to this.
Yeah.
I think that's all BS. I think he's just saying what Trump wants to hear to string him along. I think he's good at playing Trump. And so that's just going to be what it's going to be.
Man, well, yeah, we'll follow closely, see how that breaks. Okay, this was a developing story on X. Jason Calacanis from All In Podcast took a victory lap because he called this. Amazon hopes to replace 600,000 U.S. workers with robots, according to leaked documents. Yes, a lot of people lose their job, but if people invest stocks, now in these early stage technologies, we can earn annual dividends. That will
By the way, this isn't Jason Calacanis.
Oh, no.
This is Dr. Singularity.
Yeah. I was just saying he retweeted it.
Got it.
And he was talking about how he called this In the long term, automation will only continue to grow. That's certain. Besides this, there will also likely be a need of some form of UHI, so there's no need to despair or panic. 2030s will be amazing. Leaked documents have shown that Amazon looks to replace 600,000 U.S. workers with robots.
2037 is going to be amazing. 2029 to 2027 is going to be rough.
Yeah.
Is going to be rough.
Dicey.
So, yeah. This to me is like saying, by the way, Drew, the sun is going to rise tomorrow. This is a foregone conclusion. I actually feel bad saying this because I clearly have some pent-up frustrations and I'm taking it out on the wrong people. But the reason that they're replacing everything with robots is because everybody wants things cheap and nobody will work for free. We are the problem.
There's got to be margin there somewhere.
This is not a Jeff Bezos thing. This is the second Jeff Bezos does something that makes Amazon more expensive, you will start going other places. Guess what those other places will do to win your business? Just guess, Drew.
Make things cheaper.
Correct. And so everyone will flood in to the companies that make things cheaper. And guess how they're going to make it cheaper, Drew?
By firing the people who have to get paid every year, with the robots that have to get paid one time.
Correct. So we are ushering in this future. This is not a Jeff Bezos from the top down is creating robots. This is not an Elon Musk is creating robots. This is all of us want a house full of servants. That's what this is. Like we all want, dude, there's a robot that's now $1,600. It's already on my agenda to talk to you about whether we get one for the show. Okay. So like 100%, we just have homie just hangs out here every now and then. He says a joke or what. I don't think he can talk, but he like fucking does a dance. Like you have a button where it's like, if I say a banger, he like does a shimmy. Like we want this. The people want this. We want cheap shit. We want a robot in our house that does dishes and gives us a blowjob. That's what people want. So this is going to happen because we're going to make it happen. And so until you guys are like, you know what? I really want to pay more for my shit. Can I get something more expensive, please? Then Bezos is going to be like, well, damn, say less, fam. I'm going to pay people to come in and do this, and everything's going to be bespoke. Your Amazon cardboard box is going to be bespoke. And I'm going to have like a person whose job it is to pack that box like perfectly, and they're going to write you a hand note. And if that's what everybody wants Amazon to be, that's what Amazon will become. People just somehow get lost in the sauce thinking that this is just evil capitalists that are just making up what the next thing is going to be. No, they are trying to give you what you want as fast as they can give it to you. And that's why I'm always sad when I hear people look at like social media companies and they get mad. And the reality is that social media company is just responding to what you do. Now, they're using your biology against you. I totally understand that. But if you just stop engaging with it, it will go away. But people won't stop engaging with it. And therein lies the problem. And so then we get to the real ugly truth where I go, wait, are you saying that humans don't have free will? Because once you start governing like people don't have free will, Drew, because even though we don't, you can't govern like we don't.
It's always no free will. It's always a baby getting eaten. It's never Drew, you get a raise. What's going on right now, guys?
Wait, no. No. Drew, did you get an unexpected raise?
I did.
Okay, so this motherfucker has the audacity to make it sound like I am the evil capitalist that you guys all want to eat. Fuck that.
Where's the guillotine at, guys? Where's the guillotine? It's Tom's fault. I already forget him.
Let the record reflect. Because of Drew's never-ending contributions to this show, I pulled him aside and said, hey, even though we haven't hit our goals yet, I want to make sure that you see how much I appreciate what you're doing. Let the fucking record
I'm
reflect.
joking. I'm joking.
Okay.
Okay, Pamela Mosley brought up a serious comment. She said, robots are not cheap, particularly Amazon robots. Software license agreements are very expensive, software maintenance, customer support. So this isn't like one for one. Break down how do they compare this decision between like human being person.
Who's the person that said that?
Her name is Pamela Mosley.
I'm going to send a robot to slap her in the mouth.
Sheesh.
That is wild.
Where's
Are
the
these
punchline?
people really dumb? They're going to get cheaper every day. Every day. Did you know Lovable now integrates with Shopify so that you can vibe code a store where you can actually sell shit? Guys, this is going to happen so fast. And when dumb people talk like things don't improve over time, I don't know if they're clickbaiting or they're actually that stupid, but it's like, listen, these things are going to get dirt cheap very rapidly. Very rapidly. Like I said, there is a robot being sold out of China that right now is only $1,600. Okay. That's expensive. It's only going to get cheaper. So eventually this stuff just, it declines. He's talking about doing it 2033. So it's like what, 8 years-ish, 7. So this is the kind of thing that over the next 7 years, they'll probably drop in half in cost every year. That's exponential dropping in cost. And it's going to happen year over year over year. By the time he's putting them in, a human labor will cost like $20,000 a year. That works 24 hours a day.
Yeah, there's reports right now.
Changes its own battery.
The figure Optimus is at $20K when it comes to market, cheaper than a car.
And that's probably in like 3 years.
Yeah.
So that number will drop.
Yeah.
And your ultimate call it the next 10 to 12 years, an Optimus robot's probably going to run you, I don't know, 12 grand, 7 to 12 grand. It's going to take you 10 to 12 years to get there. But yeah, that sounds about right. Now, right now, employees cost 6 figures in a lot of cases.
More than 7 to 12 grand.
Yeah, by orders of magnitude. And by the way, a robot isn't going to sue you. A robot isn't going to complain. A robot isn't going to have their own problems. A robot's not going to have sick days. So it's like, boys and girls, remember, we're all the ones that want this. Now, we do have to deal with the meaning crisis. That's the next thing. I've already given the 3 answers for what this is going to be. So,
Bernie Sanders jumped on this and said, big tech oligarchs are coming for your job. Jeff Bezos will be replacing 600,000 jobs at Amazon with robots. His vision, fully automated operations.
Yep.
Amazon.
That's the public's vision.
That's the direction of every major corporation. AI and robotics must benefit workers, not the 1%.
That final sentence is the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard in my life.
That's where I was going to go with it. A lot of people are going to see this and say, oh no, let's do something.
Yep.
Kind of give us, a quick speed run of what's kind of the wrong reaction.
I want to speak Chinese. That's what they're really saying.
You won one today. Okay. All right. Ipso facto. That's it.
So here's the reality. Technology is a promise of a better tomorrow. Humans have an algorithm in their brain that says, I want tomorrow to be better than today. It has everything to do with the weather and needing to plan for winters that would otherwise kill you. And so the people that are alive today, certainly that came from climates like that, have an insatiable drive to make things better. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to stop humans. Any technology that promises an advantage will be developed, even if it puts all of humanity at risk. So the question doesn't become whether it should happen. The question becomes, how do we do it well? And when I have to waste time with people like Bernie Sanders arguing for, no one wants to see more people die than Bernie Sanders. So I'm not going to hear it from anybody with socialist philosophy. I'm not going to hear it, Drew, because those principles are obviously suicidal. So the reason that statement makes no sense, robotics don't need to be good for workers. Robotics need to be good for civilization. Yes. Like, make those demands, figure out, how do we make this good for people? The transition is going to be hard. There's no way around that. But because this technology, being AI and robotics, has an advantage, it will be developed by you or your enemies. How many countries do I have to point to? People will come take all of your shit. They will kill all of your people if you are not prepared to stand up for yourself. Okay? Full stop. End of story. It is what it is. You're mad at God that humans have that gear, but they have that fucking gear. And how did we get to the most stable 70-year period ever, Drew? By dropping 2 fucking nuclear bombs on Japan and saying, what? Any of you other motherfuckers want smoke? And then everybody else went back in the fucking woodshed and we're like, God damn, we've got to make some of these ourselves. And so we had our own scientists are like, we've got to proliferate this. So we leaked the fucking secrets to the Russians because we were like, they were like, we can't have one country have this. And then it's fucking spreads everywhere. This is exactly what will happen with AI, robotics, drones, military, up, down, all of it. So it is going to happen. Now, ought we as a society go, hey, let's do this well. Let's make sure that we have an eye for, okay, this is going to usher in an age of abundance. There's no way for it to not, because the only things that stop you from having an age of abundance are the resources themselves. So you're limited by that, and people's willingness to go extract those resources when they need calories in order to do it. Now, despots will just go kill you and enslave you and force you to do it. That's one way. And so people just fucking die in the mines. And we've certainly done that for a very long time. The other way is to recognize that you can build a robot that eats sunlight, and that if AI is as good as I think it's going to become over the next 10 to 15 years, it will get so good at capturing the energy from that light source that we'll never need energy again. That's the same as saying that the entire labor force doesn't need food. Once the entire labor force doesn't need food, you're just in a totally different game, because now you have effectively zero energy costs and effectively zero labor costs. Now you're only limited by the existence of resources and the willingness to extract them, because there will be tons of fights over that. So now the cost of everything is just going to plummet. Like, even before you get to robots do everything for us, the cost of energy is going to plummet. It's already going down if we weren't doing stupid, like, overly protective green energy stuff. I love the planet and I want to see it well taken care of.
Data centers need to take some responsibility for that too, because they've been outsourcing the energy costs and making it go for people. So it's not green
100%. But Drew, what they're going to give you for that will be insane.
As long as they pay for it, I'm good with
it. And AI is already creating novel breakthroughs in science, which we covered last week. So it's like, this is going to be phenomenal. Now, the transition period is always hard. The Industrial Revolution, the transition period was hard. The internet, the transition period was hard. There's no doubt AI is going to have a difficult transition period. But again, you can't stop it. So now just put all of your time and attention into how do we do the transition period well? Asking that question, critically important. Putting a ton of pressure on our government to do that well, critically important. Putting pressure on our entrepreneurs, critically important. Not buying from companies that we think are being irresponsible, critically important. I love all of that. But to throw the flag on the play and be like, this has got to be good for workers. Like, come on, man. Like, that's literally like going, the automobile has to be good for horse and carriage people. What? That's nonsensical. Electricity has to be good for lamplighters. I'm sorry. Like, it's so dumb. So if what he really wants is to help workers, which I love, what he really means is I want people to have dignity. I want them to be able to provide for their families. Fuck yeah. I'll fight shoulder to shoulder with him over that concept. What I will not fight over with him are the solutions that he proposed, which are provably stupid.
Yeah. We had 2 super chats before the buzzer.
Yeah. Super chat. Let's go.
First up, from Kevin Bradshaw, do you see UBI as being a real thing in the future, and why hasn't the job market collapsed yet from jobs being taken from us?
Yet. I've seen the jobs report.
So it's going to happen slowly. It won't be like an overnight thing, and thank God. We want to drag the transition period out as fast as we can and still remain in pole position. So we don't want the transition to happen like as quickly as we can, but we do want to be in first place at all times. So the speed needs to be determined by what we have to do to remain in first place. That usually means more or less unlocking growth so that you're only limited by human ingenuity and how we can interface with AI. But you still do want that to take, like, if that takes 10 years, it's much better than if it takes 10 months. I'll just tell you that right now. So that's why it hasn't, quote unquote, collapsed it. But you are in the middle of the singularity right now. It is happening. You're living through it. If you wanted to know what it's going to feel like, it feels like this. Feels like every couple weeks you get a major breakthrough in AI. You very rapidly acclimate to it. You ignore the vast majority of them, only to be then taken by surprise by the people that pick one narrow area of it, run with it, and do some huge breakthrough, whether that's in cancer, whether that's in now you can build a Shopify store in minutes instead of the weeks or months that it would have taken previously. And so it's just going to continue to be like how do we boil the frog one thing at a time? It will happen. It's just a question over how long.
And from Sequoia Hall, great job on the Ro Khanna interview. He was a good guest to round out the views you were bringing on.
Really appreciate that. However, political interviews are terrible on the channel. So I don't know how much longer we're going to do them, man. This is one where people vote for what they want. You guys are voting. You're screaming for more deep dives. So the deep dives and the lives feel like the right path forward. It could just be me, that the way I do interviews, people just don't dig. It could just be politicians, and that as long as we do a narrow band of interviews, we'll be fine. The problem is chasing guests is brutal. It's too expensive to have a full-time booker just doing their thing. So that leaves Drew and I basically chasing people, which means Drew. And at some point, we just run out of fucking time. So anyway, that's sort of the numbers of it all. If you look at the Ro Khanna interview, I'm super proud of it. I thought it was awesome. I really enjoyed my time with him. I disagree with him on so many of the solutions, but found him extremely smart, respectful, wonderful, sincere. Yeah, it was great. And in the same amount of time that we'll do 100,000 and like 20 views on a deep dive, we'll do like 24,000 on a politician interview. So their days are numbered. Although I would do Mom Donnie in a heartbeat. So we'll see if we can make it come true. All right, everybody. We're way over time today. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you guys so much. Appreciate you making me think about things more deeply. It's wonderful. Shout out to Paleo Valley. Guys, please support the people that support this channel if you get anything out of it. Paleo Valley is literally a daily part of my life. Most weeks it really does have to be 7 days a week that I eat Paleo Valley. They're amazing. From one man, I'm telling you, if you eat a protein powder, give it a shot. It is delicious. It's good for you. I started with them when I went through the skin cancer thing. So it was like I was in the extreme. I've got to get a ton of protein. It needs to be ultra high quality. So yeah, I trust these guys with my literal face. So take it for what you will. You can get 30 beef sticks for $36 at paleovalley.com/Tom. If you haven't tried their beef sticks, they're phenomenal. I eat them in ridiculous quantities when I'm traveling. Also, there should be a QR code on the screen, so scan that. If you see it, Paleo Valley is dope, and they support the channel, which the unhinged shit that I talk about now, anybody that is willing to be a part of this, I'm so grateful. So please help them out. And then as always, guys, we've got Impact Theory University. If you've been forced out of your job due to AI, if you just see where things are going and you want to be a part of it, we have Zero to Founder for people that haven't started yet. So hit us up if you want to learn how to start your very first company. We got you covered with that. All kinds of accelerators to help you actually stay accountable. And if you've got a company that's doing $1 billion in revenue, $1 billion, that's where we're headed, Drew. $1 million or more, $1 million or more in revenue. We have a program for you to scale without all the chaos. So we'll help you learn the physics of progress, help you deal with partners, employees, how to scale without the chaos, help you break through plateaus, all of that good stuff. All right, everybody. Until Friday, be legendary. Take care. Peace.